Tēnā koutou katoa, Malualele. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to everyone in the chamber, the members of the public, one or two election candidates, both around the table and in public. Councillors, staff, welcome to you all, and who may be watching on the live stream. Today we've got a couple of notable items to discuss. And there's going to be a bit of a rejig of the order. So the intention is to get on to the water service delivery plan as the first major item and go from there. So apologies for the rejig, but it's just to make sure that we've got plenty of time to do that particular item justice and get through and then deal with the balance of business from there. First of all, apologies. Do we have any apologies? We've certainly got everyone here in the chamber with Councillor Lords joining online. Councillor Holding?
I see we've received an email this morning, a council submission from Francis Slack. That's pertinent to today's meeting. Would that be tabled? How's that normally addressed?
It's an email, but he is also going to be speaking very shortly in a public forum. So yeah, we'll no doubt hear from that because yes, I haven't had a chance to read that one either. So no apologies. Declarations of interest. I'll just note interest in item 9.2 for myself and acknowledge Mr. Palmley has an interest in that. So when it gets to that particular part of that item, we'll be leaving the chamber. Any other declarations of interest? Okay, we'll go to public forum then, and we've got two speakers registered to speak. So first up, we do have Franz Schlack. So welcome, Franz. I don't think I need to remind you that this is not an opportunity to campaign, but to reflect aspects of what we're going to be talking about today.
You've had an opportunity to look at my email this morning, Mr. Mayor, so I thought that would explain what to say. And just for his explanation, the reason I emailed this morning and not printed everything out and passed it on, because I've noticed in previous times when you do that, councillors don't look at your face or to the people speak. They start reading the paper. Hence, it's on email as reference material. So good morning, Major Kircher, elected councillor, Mr. Palmley and council staff. Tuesday, the 8th of July, you voted to adopt a standalone in-house water service delivery unit to deliver Waitaki's water services as demanded by Taumata Arawai. Since that decision, I have closely followed the 5 water delivery workshops that have been conducted. What I've learned from these workshops is that the DIA enforcers do not favour the standalone CCO, and frankly, I expect that central government will reject it in favour of Waitaki joining neighbouring districts in a joint CCO. Now, reading from these two council documents, the concept of neighbouring councils shouldn't be so strange to you, because whenever cooperation with other councils is mentioned in these documents, they are in fact always referred to as neighbouring councils. It won't come as a surprise to you that I've from the outset favoured a CCO with our geographically neighbouring districts with whom we can practically share infrastructure, service, and very importantly, future investments with. I'm convinced that in such a CCO, cost savings will be made, and perhaps not immediately, but certainly in the future. This was an option when council went out to the public for consultation, but was, in my view, so inadequately pursued, researched and documented that it resulted in only 2 choices Waitaki could base their opinion on, not 4. I'd like to direct your attention to the auditor's report of the 2021 Getting Back to the Future long-term plan document. Ignoring the statutory ones, the word uncertainty heads every one of that report's paragraphs. I put it to you that 4 years on from when this document was produced, that uncertainty remains today. With a water services proposal to DIA, that is, in my view, most likely going to be rejected, and we are once again left with what's next or worse if the decision making over our water infrastructure is taken away from us by central government. Now, you know me well enough by now to know that I don't have any problems expressing my own opinion if I don't agree with any council member or staff. However, on this occasion, I would like to take this opportunity to positively address Amanda Nichols and Josh Rendell and their respective support teams. Morale is extremely important to any organisation, and I can only imagine the sinking feeling experienced by Amanda, Josh and their teams putting together one water services delivery scenario after another, knowing full well that it would only portray bad news and pain for the elected members and Waitaki's ratepayers. However, I want to state here to them that it is your work that you have put into these workshops that spelled out the actual situation we find ourselves in with our water services infrastructure and central government's ridiculously, and in my opinion, totally unnecessary, to quote them, gold standard requirements, and anyone that took the opportunity to follow these workshops are now, like myself, very much the wiser for it, so thank you. The water service delivery plan must be delivered to DIA by the 3rd of September. Council meets today or on the 2nd of September to decide with which of the 3 options put up by Morrison Lowe it will go forward with to DIA. The base case, the necessary compliance one, or the increased investment scenario that includes best practice and growth-related projects and costs. I agree with Councillors Blackler, McCone and Thompson that we need to get ready for the future and therefore support the increased investment scenario, whether it is a standalone CCO or a CCO made up with our neighbours. Furthermore, I think that all water delivery services projects under the increased investment scenario should be brought forward in time and up to as much as our debt ceiling will allow, including the increased ceiling obtained with a, hopefully, achieved improved council credit rating. I believe that that positive scenario in action will not only install some confidence with the relative minister to let Waitaki manage their own infrastructure, but will also benefit our district in development and will reduce project costs. Finally, I've been thinking a lot about rates, smoothing, and in particular serving our water services debt. I believe it is very important on how these debt repayments are applied to ratepayers. I have an idea around the methodology that might mitigate the pain of the increased financial burden on ratepayers and might even create an opportunity to property owners to recover some of the water services deliveries cost. Now, I am certainly not as clued up as Amanda or Josh are in these matters, so I would welcome a discussion with relevant council staff or elected members to see if my idea holds any water at all. And there is no pun intended. Now, Mr. Mayor, I do have a postscript, but only will read it out with your leave. Go for it. This is to the central government. How dare you put this unnecessary and avoidable financial burden on us in the current cost of living crisis? This will not be forgotten by next year's election. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Franz. Any questions? Very quick questions, if any. Councillor Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Just a quick point of clarification. You talked about the savings you identified through a joint CCO, and that was a point you made in your submission back in the day. But you also later on in this email you've just read out now, talk about whether we have a joint CCO or a standalone CCO. So even if we stay with a individual council approach, you are envisaging that it would be a CCO and not an in-house delivery unit. Is that correct? And I suppose very quickly, are you able to summarise this methodology idea you have?
I'm going to be pretty blunt here, Councillor Hopkins, but thank you for your question. There is some confusion with some, including myself, that particularly after a comment made by our CEO, Mr. Palmley, about the ring fencing. So therefore, what I understand is that the standalone water service delivery unit is still part of council, but is only financially ring fenced. So the operation of that still belongs purely with councils. I am not really concerned either way. However, I do believe, particularly in part towards the methodology that I have an idea about, I think to operate the water services in Waitaki District is better done by a standalone unit. As far as my methodology is concerned, I've seen in the 5 workshops, as we all have, a lot of talk about rates increases, rates this, rates that, rates. I think the methodology is best explained to you, and I really don't want to get into too much detail because I am not clued up with what council is allowed to do under the legislation and the Local Governments Act. But I think that we got to get away of a rates increase, but rather go towards a debt repayment schedule and methodology where we all contributing. And that is actually separate and different than increasing rates. And I hope that explains it enough for now.
Yeah, it is a process we've used in the past, so it's some may remember that at the time. Right, well, it's definitely all we've got time for, Brian. So thank you very much for coming in. I will read that email eventually, and appreciate your comments.
As I say, it's only there as reference. Thank you.
Next up, we've got Mike Sweeney. Welcome, Mike. And yep, just go for it when you're ready.
Well, good morning, everyone. So as word of this water services delivery plan spreads in the community, with its 62% increase in water charges, the council will be asked to justify its vote for the in-house unit. There will be voices that demand, why didn't you join Southern Water Done Well? They say it would be cheaper. The answer to those voices is that there is every reason to believe that Southern Water Done Well would be just as costly and possibly more costly. We know that because this exercise in preparing the water services delivery plan has carefully broken down and exposed the costs of water reform that are demanded by central government. There is no magic wand that would be waved by Southern Water Done Well or any regional company, north or south, to reduce costs. The only source of revenue is the water charges on the water customers of each district. Under Southern Water, the water charges were planned for each district to be based on the investment spending for that district plus the operating costs incurred by the regional company. For every type of cost, Southern Water would be extracting from Waitaki customers at least the same amount as in-house and possibly more. Consider depreciation, projected to be around $9 million per year. Southern Water will have to pay that $9 million, just like Waitaki's in-house unit. Consider investment financing. Southern Water will pay the same LGFA interest rates that Waitaki's in-house unit will face. Southern Water would have to assume the $56 million of Waitaki's existing Three Waters debt and presumably would have to borrow the same $145 million for work that has been projected over the next 10 years. Now, would the independent remote bureaucrats of Southern Water have the same incentive as Waitaki's in-house unit to minimize those investment costs by rescheduling projects, pursuing innovative alternatives, or through more aggressive contracting strategies? Not likely, because they won't be answerable to Waitaki ratepayers, and they will have many other things to think about as they try to manage crises throughout their vast region while trying to keep government regulators off their back. Consider operational overhead. Southern Water will set up a whole new company with its own offices, IT department, billing, finance, human resources, legal, government relations, customer services, fleet management, a general manager, and paid board members. The consultants estimated $13.8 million in costs just to start up, with unknown millions more in annual expense. If forced into Southern Water, Waitaki would be left with stranded overheads from the support services it formerly provided itself for water operations, and this would substantially harm council's efficiency. But with in-house, our water unit will continue to use the support services of the council and pay about $3 million per year for those services. This would effectively be new revenue for council sourced from the water charges and could be applied to reduce rates. Consider operational expensive billing. Southern Water will send out its own bills for water charges, incurring a large expense for printing, processing, mailing, and eventually collections. But our in-house unit will keep water charges right where they are, in the rates bill, at no extra cost. Consider the ongoing costs of operations and maintenance. Council has competitively bid this work to South Roads. Southern Water is likely to do the same or find other qualified contractors. Is there any reason to think that Southern Water would obtain cheaper service than Waitaki has obtained from South Roads? I don't think so. In all operational and construction functions, Southern Water would just be a tiny player in the national market and would be contracting with the same group of industry service providers as Waitaki's in-house unit. With the substantial diversity of facilities and equipment within its boundaries, Southern Water wouldn't have the significant ability to get better quantity pricing. But why then did the consultants say that Southern Water would be much cheaper? Actually, they didn't. Morrison Lowe produced a graph for council that showed the projected charges from an in-house unit almost exactly matched the charges from Southern Water. And this projection was based on an assumption that Southern Water would be 12% more efficient to operate because of its larger size. And that assumption was wishful thinking. There has never been a regional water company in New Zealand that covered a large rural area like Otago, which has a small scattered population, and that creates obvious barriers to operational efficiency. So there's actually no credible evidence that it would be more efficient. But there is one example of a regional company that serves a number of different districts in New Zealand. That's Wellington Water, which has managed water and wastewater for 6 districts since 2014. Not every regional company will succumb to the waste, corruption, and outrageous conduct that was exposed this year at Wellington Water. At least I hope not. But Wellington Water provides a warning of what can happen when an essential public utility is turned over to a remote bureaucracy that is effectively independent of control or meaningful influence from the districts that it represents. And that's why the ratepayers of Waitaki didn't agree with the push for Southern Water. They have watched governments and other large entities over a lifetime, and they know that the farther you get from the people, the more things can go wrong and the harder it is to fix them. So I hope that council will defend its decision. In-house was the best choice in a situation where all options are hard.
Thank you, Mike. Do we have any questions? Councillor Hopkins?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Mike. Couple of questions. You mentioned at one point, and it might be helpful if we could get a copy of what you've just read out to us. You talk about, you said if Waitaki is forced into Southern Waters done well, there'd be a range of stranded infrastructure costs and others. I'm just wondering how likely you think it is, given what you've heard the Department of Internal Affairs assessors say to us repeatedly at workshops, public workshops that you've attended. I just wonder how likely you believe it is that they will do what they have said they will do and do exactly that, i.e. force us into Southern Waters done well. A couple of other supplementary questions. You've talked about this entity, Southern Waters done well, being a tiny player. Are you aware that with the numbers involved, had the four councils joined, it would have been the third biggest entity in the South Island? And my third question is...
Well, hang on a minute. Let me do one
Okay.
at a time, all right?
All right.
Now, regarding Southern Water Done Well's size, DIA said that they thought that 50,000 connections was the minimum amount to realize significant economies of scale. And Southern Water Done Well, as I understand it, would only have been 36,000 connections altogether. So I just don't think there's a good basis to make an assumption that it would achieve economies of scale. What was your first question?
Well, the first one was how likely do you think it is?
Right. Well, I've been impressed by what the staff has been doing to try to meet the unreasonable, I think, demands of the government. I think that the next iteration, which is before you today, is an improvement on the last. And I feel that given this current situation, Waitaki has done its very best job to comply, and you have to stand your ground.
My third question, by the way, I think the total number of consumers we have here, residential and non-residential, is just over 13,000, which is substantially less than the figure you've just given us. So any issues of economies of scale would apply more so here than there. But if Wellington Water is as inept and hopeless as you have just said it is, why is it that the Wellington councils have voted to actually establish a joint venture? The only difference being that the councils currently involved in backing Wellington Water are going to be joined by the Wellington Regional Council. So what is it that they see about a joint venture, irrespective of the failings of Wellington Water, that you don't?
Well, Wellington Water, it's been pretty much pointed out that it doesn't have the same structure as the new CCO operating companies under the new legislation. The major difference being that the new CCO will actually own the resources. And I think that for the situation for a dense urban area like Wellington is completely different than that of rural areas, where you have a large number of water connections, you have high density, close situation, and oftentimes you have shared infrastructure resources for the water supply and the wastewater treatment. So I think it's realistic that Wellington wants to give it another try and try to deal with the problems that they had in the past. But I can't speak for the decision-making process because I'm not familiar with it.
We don't have a lot of time. There's a lot of statements you've made today, Mr. Sweeney, that aren't correct, that it's been pointed out to you aren't correct. Things like why Wellington Water failed at their model was fundamentally flawed, and they're moving to a model which was proposed to be a joint CCO. Things around some of the perceived challenges to councils working together and gaining efficiencies. I will ask you one question. You've made a big thing in the past of this council being addicted to debt. The water plan will see us have a heck of a lot more debt. You've proposed to us separately that a single in-house or single council CCO may be the option we should take, which comes out as one of the most expensive options. How do you rationalize that change from us being addicted to debt to actually take on all the debt you need to make sure this works?
I think that it's important that the projections for debt are subjected to another look as time allows. And it's clear that the force that's operating here is primarily the government. And that is, as Franz Schatz indicated, an external force that the council has to deal with.
Okay, thanks very much for coming in today. And yeah, we're going to be going straight to the water plan next. So with that in mind,
2 minutes first.
so we're going to item 7.1 on page 41. And Mr. Farmley.
Okay, thank you. So, yes, as promised, this report presents the Water Services Delivery Plan for approval and submission to the government. By way of a reminder, as part of the government's local water done well legislation, all councils are required to submit a Water Services Delivery Plan by the 3rd of September, setting out how they will deliver water for at least the next 10 years in a way that meets the government's requirements and choosing from a limited number of options. And the intention of the reform is to ensure that all communities in New Zealand have water that is delivered in a way that's financially sustainable and meets the required standards for drinking water, wastewater, and provides for growth as well, economic growth as well. So there's quite a rigorous straitjacket around all councils in terms of what they're required to do and the options they have to do it. I wanted to thank staff, our consultant partners, Morrison Lowe, and the governance team for the immense amount of work that everyone's put into undertaking the development of an in-house water services delivery plan in such a short space of time. Essentially, what we've done is turn around in 6 weeks what a lot of others have taken about 6 months to develop. And in doing this, our focus has really been on ensuring that we meet the requirements which the plan will be assessed against by the Government Department of Internal Affairs. And it's been a really difficult balancing act, ensuring that we have sufficient investment to meet the compliance requirements and ensuring that we've got that revenue sufficiency and financing sufficiency, including ensuring we're well placed to secure that necessary credit rating. But whilst also considering the impact on the affordability for our community, knowing that all of our household budgets are under pressure from other cost increases as well. So with the recommendations in here, we think we've got the balance right, but it's still not an easy decision to make. The content of the plan and the recommendations reflect the discussions in the public workshops that took place and the guidance we received from the governance team in those workshops. I just want to highlight a couple of the recommendations there. So recommendations 1 and 2 around the Water Services Delivery Plan really are looking at ensuring that we have that sufficient investment to deal with those compliance issues and those matters we discussed in the workshops, in the public workshops, and including dealing with the renewals backlog and the water loss. Just a reminder, these are budgets, not commitments to spend. And like all budget items in our Water Services Delivery Plan, they're subject to business cases and assessments and procurement processes. However, including them in the Water Services Delivery Plan shows our awareness of the issues and the commitment to deal with them. In terms of recommendation 1C around the increase in charges, this is to ensure that we pass both the revenue sufficiency and financing sufficiency tests, including being able to secure a credit rating. Together, these 3 recommendations are a change to what is in our current long-term plan for investment in water and for charging for water. It enables us to make the investments we need to do and operate with a balanced budget for water, which is an essential requirement, but also important in terms of getting that credit rating. A couple of other things I wanted to highlight. What we put into the Water Services Delivery Plan, we're legally bound to deliver on. So some of the detail around how water is delivered needs more consideration. So we've deliberately held some things back or we've got some ambiguity in there. And this is really to ensure that we don't commit to things that maybe we haven't had quite the time to consider fully yet. And the opportunity to consider those things is in the next stage. So if the water services delivery plan is approved, we'll need to develop an implementation plan, setting out how we're going to fulfill that water services delivery plan. And by 2027, we'll also then need a water services strategy, which is essentially the water equivalent of the LTP. And these are the places, and then this gives us the time really to develop some of that detail in terms of exactly how things will work and refine some of those costs further. But I think it's important that we recognise that not all the detail is in here, not all of the detail needs to be in here at this stage. We've got time to think about some of that detail and not to put things in here that potentially create trip hazards for future councils, because any changes that we want to make from when this water services delivery plan is submitted, we then need the government to agree to those changes. That's all I want to say by way of introduction. I don't know whether, Paul, you wanted to add to anything in that or highlight any particular aspects of the report.
Yeah, probably just a couple of things to emphasise that Mr. Palmer has already talked about. Just thinking back, the original sort of commentary from the Department of Internal Affairs about the water service delivery plan was that it was supposed to be a higher level document that they said they would provide the templates for, and they expected it to be about 40 hours of work. Clearly, time has moved on quite significantly from them, but it really did emphasise that their thoughts were that it would be an accumulation of mostly information that councils had already either from the previous reform processes or developing their long-term plans. And that is essentially still the case with our water service delivery plan. Most of the vast majority of that information is matters that have already been seen, already been discussed, and it's just accumulated in a different form. Really, the first couple of recommendations are the major changes that we've considered need to be made to make it compliant following the comments from the Department of Internal Affairs. And I think the other key point to recognise is the importance of the water services strategy that we will need to develop. That will be less. This delivery plan has a life of less than 2 years. Because it will need to be, you need to have a strategy in place by the 1st of June 2027. So, it's going to be developed in parallel with the next long-term plan. And also, there's another opportunity to sort of reflect things in the annual plan and potentially long-term plan amendment process that we'll need to undertake over the next 10 months. So again, another very short time frame, which, creates, I think the projects that are included are certain, even though they are budgets. But in terms of the financial charges that are imposed on the community, there are opportunities to refine those and make those more specific. But there is certainly no getting away from the fact that a significant increase in charges, whether it's rates or water charges, will be required and will be heavily scrutinised by both the community and the Department of Internal Affairs. So there is some room, those ones to refine the numbers, but the increase will still be significant. I think pretty much as soon as we pass this, we will start turn our minds to a water services strategy and coming up with something that really does take build on the delivery plan, but sort of as the Chief Executive noted, add a lot more detail into it in terms of more detailed policies and really to look at. If you look at the long-term plan, what's required in those, a lot of that is duplicated in the strategy. So there'll be a lot of work developing the pieces for that, and not much time to do it. So some more cheery news, but anyway, I suppose we're sort of open to questions on the strategy.
Thank you, Mr. Hope. Right, questions, Councillor Holding.
Just on the thing, Paul, if the meeting today went ahead and approved these changes to the plan with the budgets and regulatory requirements, how confident are officers that this would be compliant, past the benchmark with DIA?
I think, and I appreciate the comments that Mr. Sweeney made. I mean, officers have done everything we can to produce a compliant document, but we don't control the review process. And when the representatives from DIA spoke in one of the workshops, I think they were pretty clear that their expectations are very, very high. I was at an event last week where it was emphasised, the thrust of the changes was, the whole idea was to get councils to group together and form wider entities. So, wanting to go it alone is really contrary to what the government was trying to achieve with the water reform process. So I think they will make it a very high bar to cross, and I think we've done all we can, but we can't control that final decision. So I suppose we believe we've met all the requirements, and that's all we can do.
So if we're still thinking that risk might still sit there, is there another step? I know time, we've probably only got a week. There's no chance of some sort of independent review eye over the lens over it or something like that. Is another extra safeguard?
I don't think that's practical in the time available, because they'd provide feedback. It's only a week away. We'd get feedback. We wouldn't be able to incorporate that into the plan in time to submit it.
I'd just add to that. I mean, that's part of why we've partnered with Morrison Lowe, and that they've got an eye over all of this across lots of different areas of the country, and they bring in expertise. So their advice is valuable to us in terms of assessing whether we're meeting the DIA's requirements on this. And I concur with what Mr. Hope has said, that we've done all that we practically can, if these recommendations are accepted, to meet the requirements of the DIA.
Councillor Thompson and then Councillor Blackwood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not a question, but I believe that there's something that we should highlight, that regardless of the different positions that councillors took as to what was going to be the best option here, we all acknowledged at the time that the cost of delivering water was going to increase. So those in the community who are beating us over the head over cost increases, it was publicly stated at the time that the cost of delivering water, because of what the government standards were, was going to increase.
Councillor Blackwood, have you got questions?
Yeah, just one question in and around our landing on what we see as being the best balance of a compliant plan to put forward. Has there been any advice from Morrison Lowe that has been suggested to deliver a more satisfactory outcome, but we've taken a different stance?
Don't know whether we want to get. I can see Stu from Morrison Lowe shaking his head. No, look, I think we've had really robust discussions with Morrison Lowe and really have come up with a position that both officers and the team from Morrison Lowe sort of agree is striking that right balance between compliance and affordability. So we are very, both sides are satisfied with the position we've gotten to.
Thank you for that. And supplementary to that, just for the record, how many water service delivery plan processes is Morrison Lowe involved with around the country?
Do we mind if Stu answers that question?
I'm actually, I don't know if I have the exact number to hand. It would be at least a dozen, probably around between 10 and 15 would be my off the top of my head number. But I could probably tally it up separately if you want a specific number.
Oh, no, that's fine. Thank you very much for that.
Councillor Hopkins?
Thank you, Mayor Kircher. Questions, plural. There's been a reference this morning already to concern about the 62% increase in or projected increase. One thing I can't find in the water services delivery plan, I can see a recommendation or so proposal here that we're going to spend an additional 19.2 million or $240 million to satisfy DIA. What I can't see is a clear indication of what the anticipated rate increases in the immediate future are going to be. Is anyone able to actually say, we now think plus or minus 3% if need be, or whatever qualification you wish to impose? What is imagined or envisaged to be the rate increases next year and the year after, and the year after that?
That was covered in one of the workshops. In terms of rate increase rather than increase for water charges, I thought it was indicating it was around 40% in the first year, and then certainly double-digit increases in the 2 years after that. But that's the area where I said, yeah, there's a lot of work to be done in that space.
Okay, so that's so we are voting today to tell the parliamentarians in Wellington and our community that we think the best we can do is slap a 40% rate rise on them next year. And we're all happy with that, I take it, and we may be. Am I also, just following on from that, this water services delivery plan does indicate a series of rates or projected rates for drinking water, wastewater and stormwater. The cumulative total that I calculate based on the document that we are about to send to Parliament is that we are anticipating rating a total up to the year 2033-34 of $276,847,000. Is that correct?
I can't really dispute that number one way or the other. If that's the amount you've calculated through the plan, then that's what we're in.
Am I also correct in assuming?
Councillor Hopkins, go and just check on that. Are you talking about total water expenditure or is that CapEx?
No.
Capital expenditure versus?
Wastewater services, water service delivery plan.
Just pop your mic back on.
I think.
Thanks.
If you go to page 42 of the water services delivery plan. Sorry, it's coming up as page 42 of the agenda, so I can't. I thought I calculated. I circulated an email with these figures. Let me just find it again.
The table on 7.
No, the drinking water targeted rates. The total to 2033-34 is identified as 179,628,000. Wastewater targeted rates again to financial year 33-34, 83,834,000. Stormwater targeted rates, 13,385,000. The total targeted rates up to, from now to, through to FY 2033-34, I add that up as $276,847,000. Is that correct? Because that's what we're telling DIA we propose to spend, and I've just heard Mr. Palmley say we're legally obliged to follow through.
I'd have a different answer than
I
my previous one.
think that's the forecast for the capital expenditure. So it's not the operational expenditure of actually running the schemes. It's my understanding of that. But,
Yeah, I think that's a cumulative capital expenditure over that period. I think that's what you're referring to.
So the day-to-day running will be on top of that. Can we go to Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just have a point of order. Councillor Hopkins commented that everyone around the table is happy to see increases. I would suggest that he is not in a position to judge what the other councillors are thinking when they haven't spoken yet.
What I heard him say is everyone happy with that? I think he terms it as a question. You can respond to that question if you want to.
So just apropos of the Brent's just found it. If you go to the Water Services Delivery Plan, page 42, 7.4, capital 10-year forecast, and there's there are a series of on each of on the relevant pages. There is identified a line item that says targeted rates for the three categories: drinking water, wastewater and stormwater. It is there, and those figures are included. The ones that I've read out are the figures that are there. I simply want to know if that is officers' genuine belief, and is that what we will be telling DIA?
See the targeted rates. So table 7.4 is the capital 10-year forecast. It's outlining where the capital expenditure is envisaged each year. In terms of the rates or water charges increase or the projected, and again, it's not the commitment, that'll be the decision of future council. Those are listed on page 52 in terms of the respective average charges per residential connection each year. So down towards the bottom of that page. So that's where the rating information is listed in the document.
Well, I'll approach the matter a different way. There is definitely references to targeted rates, but putting that aside, there's an earlier reference to the capital expenditure program. Am I correct in assuming that the document says that we propose over the 10-year period to spend $262,196,000 on the three water services?
That's additional capital expenditure.
Well, I'm assuming it is. There's the 19.240 million included in the recommendations today. There are references to $104 million in level of service improvement expenditure and 137.78 million in capital expenditure, which I presume is part of that total of 262,196,000. But these are massive numbers, and I just want to know, are they correct?
I think the table on page 52 of the plan it gives an indication of what water will cost in rates, and it's showing there that it will go from year one of being about $1,468 of a rates bill will be for the drinking water, wastewater and stormwater. This is of a typical residential property. Over 10 years, that will go up $2,000 to $3,465. So that's just water alone, doesn't take into account whatever else council does, future councils. Stu, yes, we should go to you. You probably know the stuff. Thanks.
Sorry, I just thought I'd provide some clarification for Councillor Hopkins' questions, given I'm a bit familiar with the Water Services Delivery Plan. So yes, the numbers presented on page 42 that outline the capital. I mean, I can't talk to your council's views on the capital program and its views on its adequacy or otherwise. But what I can say is that yes, the capital program presented on page 42 is the capital program that we are proposing. It has got about $260 odd million worth of capital proposed over that 10-year period that's presented in the table on page 42. And similarly, the targeted rates figures that Councillor Hopkins was referring to are presented in they start in page 67 of the Water Services Delivery Plan, which presents the projected financial statements for water services at the combined water services level. And further on, we present them disaggregated across drinking water, wastewater, and stormwater. And those numbers, again, at a cumulative 10-year total, add up to approximately the same number that Councillor Hopkins has referred to before in terms of that revenue requirement. So that noting that the revenue requirement that Councillor Hopkins refers to there is the cumulative amount that we're expecting to receive over a 10-year period, rather than specifically the amount in any given year.
Thanks, Stu. And just while you're on that, does that 260 odd million, does that include the 20 million extra that we've got in our recommendation?
That does, yes.
Thank you.
Look, I do apologise if members are interested. The actual target rate figures, they start on page 67, but the specific references to drinking water targeted rates, wastewater targeted rates, and stormwater run from page 71 to 79 of the Water Service Delivery Plan. And what I've just heard is that Stu has confirmed those figures are what we are proposing in this document to rate over the 10-year period.
Can I just clarify? You're not agreeing rates charges today. You're agreeing a document that projects what those charges would need to be for water. In terms of future rates, that'd be for the council to decide, future council to decide, both through the LTP amendment and the next LTP process, in terms of the overall rate charge and what it decides to do about other services.
Well, I would have a question about that. Would I be correct in assuming, given the way Parliament has framed the legislation and given the comments even from critics of what we have originally proposed, including comments made today, it won't exclusively be a matter for a future council. Government departments like the Department of Internal Affairs and the Secretary of Local Government will be able to intervene as well, will they not?
Well, there'll be the Commerce Commission involved in this, as well as the regulator. But what the Water Services Delivery Plan sets out is a programme of work to meet the compliance needs, to meet the infrastructure needs, and to meet growth needs. And it sets out some projections as to what we're going to spend, some projected budgets to be able to deal with that, and some projected water charges to be able to deal with that. So we're committed to delivering on the strategy if it's accepted by the DIA. But in terms of the actual rates levied, that would be still dealt with by the next council through the LTP amendment and the LTP process. And they'd be looking at what was necessary within water charges. We'd have more information on some of those projects as they come into fruition in terms of how much they're going to cost. We're still awaiting information in terms of acceptable solutions for some of these things and determining what that's going to cost. So there's still a lot of unknowns in here. These are projections that we're agreeing to. It still need to go through the council process to agree what the actual rate is. And obviously there's a whole mix of other services that come in for consideration then as well.
I think it's also just important to note that this is an average. It's presenting them as if we've harmonised pricing right across the whole district. So if you're receiving those services, regardless of where you are, that's what you're going to pay. At the moment, our system doesn't allow for that. If work is done on your water scheme, then you pay for that. So it will see some paying less than that. It will see, I'm sure, a lot paying quite a bit more, unless a future council makes that decision to harmonise. So again, it's just being aware of some of those details and what's not only what we're facing, but what a future council is facing. Do we have any other questions? Oh, sorry, Hannah. Thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. I'm just looking at the proposed growth section on page 29. The estimates are based on high growth forecast prepared for council by Infometrics back in 2024. Last night I had a wee look at the Stats New Zealand subnational projections in terms of low, medium and high, and on a straight compare, our growth track that we're using sits above the Stats New Zealand path and then well above the medium. Are we able to consider anchoring it at the medium kind of level as the baseline and then carry the Infometrics as a high, as a contingency? I'm just wondering if DIA will see it as a wee bit optimistic. Then it allows us to kind of do a wee bit more work just around things like front load demand management and all of the asset management planning, as well as considering like building an equity package for our low income whānau. And I know that's down the track, but I just wanted to flag that in terms of using a bit more of a realistic, that kind of statistic for us. Whether it's a Josh or a Stu or a.
I'll start on this. I'm sure others are going to chip in, but one of the things we've tried to do here is be consistent where we can with assumptions that are in our long-term plan. So when we were developing the long-term plan, we had quite a debate around the table around which growth projection to utilise, and you chose as a council the high growth projection. So we'd be inconsistent with the long-term plan. But I think in terms of growth, we wouldn't be investing in growth unless there was some certainty around that growth actually happening. So it's a provision in there for growth rather than a definite expenditure on growth. But I don't know whether Josh or Paul want to add to that.
Yeah, part of the reason why we actually engaged Infometrics to provide some growth numbers is that we had consistently overperformed the Stats New Zealand projections in prior long-term plans. So we felt that getting something tailored to the district was more appropriate, given how important it was to some of the information contained in the long-term plan. So I think it's almost the other way, and DIA would be wondering why you would be changing away from the long-term plan, especially when the assumptions in that plan were subject to audit, and that's one of the key assumptions that they look at. So I think it's we're all certainly happy with that. It's a robust position to take, especially in this document.
Yeah, I could certainly verify that since 2001 we have consistently outdone the projections back when they were negative projections. Councillor Hopkins?
Yeah, I just wonder if this is I hope it isn't seen as a contentious question. I just wonder if it's entirely correct to say that we adopted the high growth calculation. We did with the LTP, but I remember discussing this matter, and I drew attention to officers and other councillors to the fact that I think the financial statement is predicated on low or moderate growth. So there are two different documents that I think actually employ different growth presumptions. Now, if Paul's right and the LTP prevails, then it's a lay down misere. But am I correct in that recollection of the conversations we had?
I don't recall that, but I think it may have been in the Infometrics. They basically recast it, so we may have chosen more of a middle line in the Infometrics projection, but that was still, as Councillor Halliday noted, higher than the high projection from Stats New Zealand. So I'd need to go back and look, but we were. That is essentially the growth projection we have adopted for this council, and I think it's applied to some of the district plan matters as well.
Thank you. Councillor Blackburn?
Thank you. Mr. Palmer already touched on it earlier, but I just wanted to come back to the topic around the interrelationship between the water service delivery plan and the water services strategy that will be undertaken down the track. And I just want to confirm that there is scope within the development of that to, modify and adapt any, further detail that we pick up, given that we will have the time to actually, put some effort into various matters to kind of iron things out, when we kind of ultimately land on that strategy.
Yeah, I certainly believe so, although it's, no one's gone through the development of a water services strategy. So, and the act was only passed last week. But I think it's, as long as you have a robust argument as to why you're sort of veering away from a delivery plan, then I think that, and you can make that sustained argument, then that should be able to, you should be able to modify the plan. It's just if you make arbitrary changes without really any justification, I think that's when you'll get into probably issues with the regulator, and it's sort of a bit unclear about what role Internal Affairs has beyond the delivery plan. But I think they'll really pass it over to the Commerce Commission, and they will take they will want explanation as to why you're making, especially if it's a significant or material variation. But I think it would be, as you said, we'll have more time to do effectively a robust business case about the change, particularly if it's something like we find a better way to deliver some of the key projects, then that should be an allowable change.
Thank you. Supplementary. So for example, if further condition assessment impacts the renewals profile, that would be the evidence you need to change what comes forward in the strategy. Or to Deputy Mayor Halalele's point, if there was further discussions had around growth and where we ultimately need to land in the next LTP based on evidence, that would satisfy that criteria, even though it is a material shift.
That's our best understanding of the position at the moment. The most, as I said, this is supposed to be a higher level document. In it, we talk about trying to go into a more proactive approach and having a better understanding of asset condition. And that's certainly the desired position, I think, of the department and the regulators. So if you come up with a good, robust case with, sort of new information that leads to a modification of the plan, then that should be allowed.
Councillor McCone.
Yeah, look, firstly, thank you to everybody that's been involved in the amount of hours that put through into the numbers and the regulations. Personally, I think it's probably more realistic than it has been right from the start. I really have a problem with so much expenditure based on assumptions, and some of the laws that we've been asked to provide by are not even passed yet. So the law says councils are required to assess and agree to a preferred water service delivery model that is financially sustainable and meets the standards. Now, to me, at the moment, these are the best set of figures I've seen. I don't like it. I don't think that all the infrastructure in New Zealand is all ready to fall apart in the next 10 years. I don't see what the rush is. I think a modified and proactive approach is necessary. And we must, by law, get this through by the 3rd of September with an indication where we're going. I think, as Tim made the point before, we have 2 years to get this in order. So this is a start. And I think right where we're at the minute, as Paul said right at the start, it's based on a template. Well, templates might work for urban, but I think we've got a whole heap of several templates. We don't have one for provincial systems or smaller provincial towns. We're still basing things on actuals, and we're not taking into account affordability. And I think that is the key.
Councillor Hopkins.
It's just a question apropos of this notion that the strategy may vary from the plan. To the extent that DIA has made clear what they deem to be the minimum acceptable solution for us, or that they will impose, wouldn't we, if we are imagining any shift from the approach we're proposing to take, or the approach we have proposed to take, wouldn't we need to signal that in this document that goes on the 3rd? I mean, wouldn't we need to say that our strategy, we imagine the strategy will change because new information has led us to wish to review, well, whatsoever we might choose to indicate is the case?
So, to answer that, first of all, I don't think we need to do anything more than what we've done. So one of the things we talk about in this plan is about our changing approach to asset planning. So obviously, as part of transformation, we've now got a dedicated asset planning team, and we are changing up our approach so that rather than going on estimated life of assets, we're getting we get to a point where we've got better data on the condition of those assets, and we can plan around when they need replacing. So we've signalled that there may be changes coming in here already due to our change of approach.
No, I was thinking more of the actual the option we're choosing to take. I mean, even some of the critics have said, hey, DIA are out to get you. Maybe you should look at a CCO or joint or
So the-
standalone
the
or whatever.
The plan.
What
was-
if we signal, wouldn't we need to say in the document we send to them on the 3rd of September that we actually think there might be a shift from the position we've currently adopted to a new one?
So we can't say that because we're working to the council resolution that you made, which is referenced in there that, yeah, we're looking at in-house delivery, and that it references in the document that we'll continue to look at partnership options, but we can't say we're committed to a partnership option when council hasn't resolved that, and you know, we haven't got those other partners around the table that resolve that as well. So we've signalled in there that, you know, council will continue to explore with other councils, but that there isn't, you know, that resolution in there that we can put in this plan at the moment.
Councillor Ryan?
Thank you. Beyond the 3rd of September, what does our engagement, I guess, look like with people around this table and the community? I think, you know, based on comments that Franz made earlier, you know, I think it's been really beneficial having the workshops and to deepen both our understanding and the communities. And do we have, I guess, based on the feedback that we receive, do we have a plan for engagement with both us and the community going forward?
Paul?
A plan at the moment? No. But I suppose it's almost implied by, you know, the fact we're most likely need to do an amendment to the long-term plan and then actually work through this through the annual plan process. So we will develop a plan as part of this. I think as you've noted, the public workshops have been very beneficial. So I think we would pick up that approach and carry on with that. That there is a high level of interest in this topic. And so, yeah, the more that is conducted in public, it's probably more useful. And then in terms of engagement, yeah, it really depends whether it's an annual plan or an amended long-term plan. And then what kind of work we start doing on the future long-term plan and the water services strategies. It's going to be, you know, there's certainly going to be an awful lot of points where the engagement is possible and required.
Thank you. Go to Councillor Blakely next, and then Councillor Hopkins again.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so yeah, just noting that I had followed up with a whole range of questions in and around the draft, which I'm not seeking to go over here. I've had sufficient response to them, and you know, there's a few minor edits and stuff that have been offered up. So thank you for that. I just did have one overarching question around our commentary to the compliance or non-compliance performance against the drinking water standards, and I just would just kind of like to reiterate that question to the team as to if you see any opportunity for just providing some context around some of those low-level non-compliances that are more, as has been explained to the Park Committee in the past, more around, you know, technicalities, or there is a, you know, a coherent plan in place to address any matters, rather than just saying it's carte blanche, fail or not.
Just for, I suppose, broader context for everyone here in the room, the compliance figures that we've got within the water services delivery plan are reflective of the state of our compliance within the 23-24 financial year, and are reflective of the annual report. And essentially it's summarised there as either we complied with all of the requirements for all of our schemes or we did not. In that situation, we did not, evidently, because we had a number of suppliers that were not yet upgraded. There were boil water notices in place, et cetera, it doesn't have the detail of saying which suppliers were compliant and which suppliers were not, because it is summarised, I suppose, as an entire compliance set. I think what we have done throughout the plan is expressed where there is compliance issues that are known, and we do have sufficient investment there to be able to address those. So I think from DIA's perspective, we should tick the box in terms of investment sufficiency to ensure that we're compliant moving forward. I'm not sure that us changing how we're reporting historic compliances is particularly relevant or not relevant. I think it's important context, but the fact that we're only drawing attention to half a dozen suppliers where we've got compliance issues probably does enough to provide that further context.
Thank you.
Councillor Hopkins?
Yeah, just a question, perhaps to Paul, or Mr. Hope or Mr. Palmley. Noting that Warren from DIA said a couple of workshops back that the number one starting point response that DIA envisaged undertaking was the appointment of a specialist if we proceeded to submit to them what we had voted that we would. Noting that that's what they said they would be the first thing they would do, is it correct that if a specialist was appointed, that person would have the ability to determine or impose conditions on all aspects of council expenditure?
I'm not sure it's correct that they'd have ability to determine on all aspects of council expenditure. It'd be on those that have some connection or impact on water, I think, but they would essentially assume the powers of council in terms of determining the future of water and putting together a water services delivery plan that is compliant. So that clearly impacts on other aspects of council, but they wouldn't be involving themselves or be able to involve themselves in other aspects of council that didn't have any connection with water.
I think you may be conflating it with the economic regulator who, if we've got an in-house operation, will be able to look at everything within council to make sure that there is the right ring fencing happening, and would certainly open up things a whole lot more.
Thank you.
Councillor Blackler?
Oh, thank you. I just had one more question. On page 53 of the water service delivery plan, there's the table that kind of summarises the affordability issues for one but not the only vulnerable cohort in our community. This one, giving light to the single person household, likely superannuant kind of situation, and the impact that will have in terms of charges against that cohort's household income. And I just wondered if you guys would be able to just touch on that, just to talk about, before we were able to implement a situation such as volumetric charging, what would be the approach we would take to supporting, not only this cohort, but any vulnerable parts of the community.
I think it's really too early on in the process to give a meaningful answer to that, councillor. I think one of the key parts of the long-term plan is really the revenue and financing policy, and then dropping out of that the sort of the charging policy. We're going to have to go through the same sort of process in terms of the water services strategy. So really looking at what's the charging regime, what's going to be this. If we go to volumetric charging, what's the split between a fixed charge and the actual volumetric charge, and then understanding who are the most vulnerable members of the community, given that this will be charged directly to the consumers rather than sort of ratepayers. So again, it changes the mix from what we're used to. So I think it's an area where we'll need to really develop a far better understanding of sort of the makeup of consumers rather than ratepayers. And I think that's a really big difference we're going to have to work on, and how we can actually accommodate that either in the charging regime or in a more direct assistance type process. I know some councils have already sort of moved a bit down that path in terms of rates relief. So we'd probably pick up on that work and really and also look at maybe what other regulated industries do to make sure that there is not a disproportionate impact on the most vulnerable. So it's a big piece of work. It doesn't need to be addressed in this document, and we really haven't put much thought into it at the moment. But it is certainly recognised that's a key piece of developing the revenue and financing and funding strategies as part of the WSS.
Hopefully we're running out of questions. Is someone willing to move anything at the moment? Councillor Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, just for my mind, are you looking for someone to move these recommendations in front of us?
I'm looking for a motion.
Well, I'm happy to move recommendations 1 through 6, either collectively or individually.
Okay, moved. Councillor Thompson, seconded Councillor Blackler.
What's the 6th recommendation?
Oh, sorry, 5. Sorry.
Going above and beyond again.
Just thought I'd throw one in extra.
Okay, speakers to the motion. Just to kick off that Councillor Thompson. Do you wish to start?
I'm quite happy to just simply move it
Okay.
without speaking to it.
Good as go. Okay, speakers to the motion. Councillor Blackler.
I just want to take the opportunity to thank Alex, Paul, Amanda, Josh and Paul for and the teams that have other team members that have supported pulling all this together at so late in the piece. I don't think I'm just speaking for myself when I say we can see that everyone's put their very best effort into doing pulling all this together in conjunction with Stuart, Morrison Lowe, and Stu. Thank you, value your input into this piece of work as well. It's not something that's going to sit well with the community, but in terms of costs to the household, but as I've maintained right the way through, the way we need to be looking at this is from a household cost perspective, not just a rates perspective, because whatever path we head down, the householder is going to be worse off because of the requirements that have been handed down as part of this. So thanks again, and happy to submit what I see has been our best attempt and genuine attempt at getting a successful outcome.
Thank you. Councillor Hopkins.
Well, it may come as no surprise.
Microphone.
For me,
Microphone.
it may come as no surprise for me to say I absolutely disagree. The point about hassle, let's clear this up. Three Waters was a government of the left's solution to perceived issues with water. Local Water Done Well is a government of the right's solution to perceived problems with supply of water services. Parliaments of the left and right have made the choice that higher standards and economies of scale are the only solution going forward. To the extent that this has imposed costs, they are costs imposed by Parliament, not by us. And Parliament has also not seen fit to give local government any effective tools that enable it to realistically, yes, there might be a reverse mortgage proposal at some point, but essentially, and that's general, not specific to water, but essentially we have no ability to mitigate these increased costs. The thing we can do is control council costs. And what we have established this morning is that we're going to, well, it appears that people will vote or are happy to vote for a document that is going to impose, we have been told, a 40% rate rise next year and double-digit rate rises the 2 years after, just for water. We've also been told by the Department of Internal Affairs that they don't like what we are intending to do, and they are proposing to bring into the council's ambit a specialist who will decide all matters relating to water and what's to be spent. And as Councillor Cowell said the other day at one of the workshops, will have significant powers not unlike those of a commissioner. We are forfeiting control of our own future. we are binding the next council to an impossible series of chosen council costs. The option, and no one has disputed, there's been argument about whether the joint venture CCO or the standalone CCO would be a lot cheaper or a little cheaper. No one's disputed the fact that there are savings to be gained from joining with others. And indeed, advocates of what we are proposing today have actually repeatedly advocated for joining, just not with the three other councils that we originally voted in February to enter into an agreement with. If it is our secret desire to actually get together with people, we should be saying so now. You know, it's not good enough to say, oh, we'll have an in-house unit, but we really actually quite privately hope that we will get together with a few other people later on. If we think that is the ultimate optimum solution, it should be declared now, not at some future point. I'm relieved that 5 does signify a generic willingness to explore future opportunities for collaboration with other councils. In that context, I note that the Southern Water Dunwell councils have indicated that we are welcome to join on the original basis, as is Timaru. And I rather suspect that my prediction is that a solution that includes amalgamating Waitaki, Timaru, maybe Mackenzie and Waimati with the other 3 Southern Water Dunwell councils is a likely outcome from the DIA, given the vehemence with which they've advocated their position to date. There are clear issues with this document. In no year do we meet the FFO requirements. The borrowing is extraordinary. We have established through Stu's comment that we are proposing to spend in targeted rates 276,847,000 by 2033-34. Now, admittedly, if there's a volumetric charge, that will possibly go down, but these are massive figures, massive amounts of money. And the consequences of doing this and the fact that it's going to bind future councils and effectively render null and void any of the other aspirational projects people might wish to promote really persuades me that we are making a mistake. Ratepayers did not say we have to have an in-house unit. A majority of 300 ratepayers who responded to a survey said that. That is not representative necessarily of 24,000 people. And I would encourage councillors who are concerned about the prospects of a 40% rate rise committed today for next year not to support this.
Thank you, Councillor Hopkins. Any other speakers? I'll say my 2 cents worth, and in doing so acknowledge the significant work that officers have gone to make this happen, to take the word, but to pivot from where we were to where we are now. All the effort that's gone into that is very commendable, and it has had the support of every member around this table. After we'd made the decision to keep water in-house, the following Monday I was writing my Oamaru Mail column, which was making clear my commitment to deliver on that resolution of ours. And I think I've fulfilled that over this past month and a half or whatever it's been. However, it doesn't change the situation, and that is that we are imposing huge costs on our ratepayers. I don't think it's believable that there are no efficiencies from a joint CCO. It's nonsense. The modelling that has shown that has been very clear around what that will be. We knew that on the 8th of July when we made the decision. We had the numbers in front of us around what the cost saving was going to be for each house. For some people, it was like, that saving's not worth it. What we're seeing Now, with this particular plan is worse than what I was expecting. And I was expecting something fairly bad. Talking about whether as a group of urban councils or whether there's a group of rural councils getting together and whether there's going to be efficiencies or not because of that is nonsense. We're faced with significant costs now because we're a large district with a very rural community. Other councils have already got those costs. Joining together with others like that will actually create efficiencies. If you've been in business, if you've run a business and you've been here at council overseeing the operation of council, I find it hard to believe that people think that suddenly councils are really efficient, really effective at what they do in this particular space, because quite simply, we're not. And that's what we're paying for. We're paying for a whole lot of a backlog of deferred work, things not meeting standards that we are coming through. And that is a massive challenge for our community. It's all very well talking about the single person household or the large families and so forth, but if we're not actually trying to make the most savings we can, then we're not really caring for those. In my speech back on the 8th of July, that was certainly a focus for myself, is making sure that the most vulnerable people get taken care of. It's highly likely that the economic regulator will not allow us to favour one group of consumers over another. Volumetric pricing, putting meters in, will help for some of them, but it won't help for all of them. If the economic regulator says, well, no, those you can't favour those ones, everyone's got to be paying their fair share, then that's got to be the way it is. And we need to understand that that's the situation we're going into. We are losing control. A lot of what is in this plan, we don't have choice over. We've had to say, we've had to accept that this is going to be in the plan. That is the loss of control that we talked about that month and a half ago, and that is what we're experiencing. If you don't think that's the case, feel free to take some of that stuff out because that will help our ratepayers. The Southern group doesn't meet the sweet spot. The South Canterbury group doesn't meet the sweet spot. Together they do. Mr. Sweeney himself has acknowledged that joining the Southern group doesn't get to the 50,000, but it does get efficiencies, and that's an important aspect. I think we've got to get away from some of this protectionism and trying to keep control when actually the control is left the station. It's no longer in our hands to say what goes in the plan, because this is what we have to do and then what we have to deliver. And what we've had to, the dead rats that some of us have had to swallow to actually make the plan as viable as possible is something that's very unpalatable. I don't want to consign any of our most vulnerable people to possibly losing homes because they can't pay rates. All of the other challenges they're going to have around affordability, choosing how they might cut their food bill further or their electricity bill further. That's not what I was here for. In my mind, I've failed our ratepayers. Didn't get the best option over the line on the 8th. We've got it in front of us, one of the least best options. We've got something that those who have been most critical of council suddenly believe council can do really well. And it just doesn't make sense to me. We're out of time. We've got to put a plan in. We cannot change it now. I accept that, but I will not be supporting this plan, which puts such huge rate increases on our community when we had cheaper options to go for. Councillor Holding.
I'm still not convinced that either model in a true sense actually delivers that financial affordability or sustainability without further reiterations anyway. It's just, I mean, unfortunately, it hasn't been our process. It's been a rush to tick the boxes and get something better in place, but it still doesn't address the whole. Yeah, but I agree. And then I think option 5 that we have voted on, Jim, it does note the willingness that it's still there to explore further opportunities down the track. But I think at this stage, Not sure where I was going to go with that next bit, but
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Thompson, is right to reply?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I totally empathise with some of the sentiments expressed. We would be delusional to say that that with a great deal of enthusiasm, this is our preferred option. When I was elected to represent the ratepayers of Waitaki, I didn't think I'd be negotiating with the mafia. And in actual fact, the government of the day needs to be held account.
Councillor Thompson, I think
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Comparing the government to the mafia is not appropriate.
Well, it's the way I feel. I've been blackmailed into a position. We were given. I asked specific questions of DIA in the first opportunity around buying time to look at our options. We were given advice. By the following week, they had changed that position and I was screwed. So yes, I do resent being bullied by Wellington and I'm not going to kowtow. I know this is not the optimal, but we do have time and a process to continue to work on. That's why I'll be voting for.
Thank you. Just with that was the right of reply.
Point of order, if I may, Mr. Mayor Kitchen, may I ask that the votes be taken one recommendation at a time, please?
Yep, that's fine. Okay, so get back to that page. Okay, so first of all, the council approves the following changes to information previously considered to be included in the water services delivery plan. That's the additional $9.79 million to address compliance issues, an additional $9.45 million to address resilience and renewal issues, and to increase charges in an approach to achieve a balanced budget and revenue sufficiency to meet operational, investment and borrowing costs. Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? No. No. That is carried. Number 2, approves the water services delivery plan subject to any adjustments required by the above decisions set out in attachment 1 for submission to the Department of Internal Affairs by the 3rd of September 2025 for acceptance. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against? No. Number 3, notes that in accordance with Section 18 of the Local Government Water Services Preliminary Arrangements Act 2024, the Chief Executive must provide certification to the Department of Internal Affairs in respect of the information provided by the Waitaki District Council that the Water Services Delivery Plan complies with the Local Government Water Services Preliminary Arrangements Act 2024 and that the information contained in the plan is true and accurate. Could have written that one a wee bit shorter, I'm sure. Those in favour, please say aye. And those against? No. Number 4, delegates to the Chief Executive the authority to finalise the plan, including making minor amendments to the Water Services Delivery Plan if required in advance of the submission to the Department of Internal Affairs. Those in favour say aye. 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 Number 5, notes the willingness of council to explore future opportunities for collaboration with other councils in relation to water services delivery. Those in favour, please say aye. 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 Those against? That is carried.
Could I have my votes recorded, please?
Likewise. Thank you. Clarify that later. Thank you, everyone. Not an easy topic, I know, but one that is very significant to us all and something that matters a lot to our people. We have come to just gone past the time we were going to have a break for lunch, so we will do that. When we come back, we've got a couple of property matters. We'll go on to those. I expect staff will be coming in at that time, and we'll get through the rest of our agenda as best as possible. So don't expect to be finished by the scheduled finish time. It might be slightly later. Thanks very much. We'll adjourn the meeting. Good afternoon, everyone. We're back underway and just double checking. Yes, we have got a quorum in the room. There's one or two councillors still coming in. So we have a pretty full afternoon now just because of how long the water services delivery plan item took. We are going now to the scheduled item for 1 p.m, which was the revocation of reserve and gifting of land, which is on page 58 of your agenda. And
Councillor Blackwell's
later on, yeah. So we've got that particular one, and we've got who's speaking to that? Joe, are you introducing the report? Hand over to you, thanks.
I am. Thank you, Mayor Kircher. So thanks to the team for putting this together. This paper aligns with the requirements of the Reserves Act and Council's intention and direction to assess opportunities relative to supporting the Waitaki Valley Health Trust in the creation of a community medical centre. And I'll hand over to Claire.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Just first of all, before I launch into any details, just want to acknowledge my team member, Rachel, who has actually done all the work in this space. She also has the close relationship with the trust directly as well. So I'm the poor stand-in to present this report today. So this is really in response to some feedback through the LTP consultation period for potential looking at multiple, well, at least 2 to 3 bits of land that we could maybe gift to the trust. But we felt this was probably a really good solution because they are planning to build their new medical centre on this site already. And because their current site is currently not fit for purpose. So they're planning for the future. So there will be some multiple steps to go through, which is within the report, the process to divest the local purpose reserve and gift the land. So this is the start to seek your approval for that gifting of land, ultimate gifting of land.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Hopkins.
Thank you. Look, thanks for this. My questions relate to this section and others. What's the opportunity cost of this? We're proposing to, I think, provide this free of charge and for all peppercorn rental. So do we know what is the valuation of the land, or can anyone give us an estimated value of the property at section 605185?
We didn't actually seek a valuation on that particular piece of land that we're looking to gift. It is classified local purpose reserve, so there would not be a high value currently attached to the land.
And supplementary, if I may, or a couple of supplementaries. The first relates to the existing site. I think we're requiring the removal of improvements. I presume 6 to 10 Wynyard Street is our land.
The land is vested to council. It's Crown derived reserve. So once we get through this process, if it's approved, then we will be reviewing the purpose of that land and whether there is a future purpose for it.
Just one final question. My understanding from what you've said is that there's community consultation and also iwi sign-off required. I take it from the way that a report is written that we haven't at this point got, well, maybe not so much iwi as Kaitahu themselves. We haven't as yet received that sign-off from them, is that correct?
We haven't actually started that process because this getting your approval first is this first step of the process.
Councillor Holding.
Thank you. Is the trust sort of given a reason why it could be a barrier to funding?
It was a way of giving them a security of tenure. Yes, you could do a long-term lease, but actually owning the land gives them wider opportunities for applying for grants and funding.
Was the long-term lease not favourable? I mean, just to try and keep the public ownership of us in the future if it didn't go.
I think Councillor Cowles is happy to answer that one.
Yeah, look, I think the idea behind this, trusts, you know, and relationships with banks are difficult in securing certain funding, and having an asset in the land underneath was an easier way for them to be able to secure the building and get on and start moving, rather than the uncertainty of a peppercorn lease and not owning the land moving forward. So it gave the trust some security over that land moving forward, but it also allows them to move forward with what they've already proposed. So yeah, there's been an awful lot of work gone into this over numerous years, I suppose, to get to this stage. But yeah, there's certainly a recognition that the existing buildings are no longer fit for purpose.
I think there's a wee bit of history there too, where the trust came to us for funding support, and we didn't feel that we had the funds there to do that. This is a way to give some meaningful support that doesn't have it has an opportunity cost, but it doesn't have an actual cost to council. Is there any other questions? Councillor Holden?
If in the future that they decided that they wouldn't be there going forward, would there be some sort of clause in there that they might re-give that land back to council? Or?
That is definitely something we can look at when we do the negotiations.
Councillor Jim.
Yeah, look, I just one very quick question. There was a property originally considered, and I think we offered it to the trust, and they said no, it wasn't suitable. Can you just remind me where my recollection is that was a freehold title, and B, what was the address, please?
I don't know the address, but I believe the land was near where the St. John's building is right now. Is that correct? Okay.
And it is free. It is freehold title, isn't it?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, any other questions? Someone like to move? Councillor Cowles, you're moving recommendation?
I'd like to move an additional recommendation. Recommendation 5, as part of this process, council commits to the sale of 51 Gordon Street with proceeds to be used to reimburse ratepayers.
I'll take that as a separate one. We'll deal with this particular motion that's as long as someone seconds it. Councillor Ryan, thank you. So we'll deal with this, what we've got in front of us. Any speakers to that?
Well, if I just may speak to this and will perhaps foreshadow why I've done it. The one thing that did concern me about this, and I totally understand the history, the logic of doing this to help the trust, but the business is going to be a private company. And as the Mayor has said, there is an opportunity cost, and we did discuss at some point through this process whether any proceeds of sale would reimburse district ratepayers or ward ratepayers. In this instance, given that, and I'm sorry I got it wrong before, it wasn't a peppercorn lease, it was a peppercorn price. To the extent that that's the case, ratepayers are missing out on the benefits of sale of an asset. And given that we've just signed up for a 40% rate increase next year, it did occur to me that it might be sensible to actually assist ratepayers whensoever we can. So hence, as a quid pro quo and part of this process, I had originally thought that we could sell or immediately commit to selling 6 to 10 Wynyard Street if it's Crown Reserve, that's obviously going to have to go through a separate consultation process. But I do believe that that and Gordon Street could both be considered for sale as a way of recompensing ratepayers generally.
Yes, yeah, so
In terms of the site that they're currently on, we wouldn't be selling it. We would be working through a process to either keep it or give it back to DOC. And if they can choose whether they sell it. In terms of the St. John's, I would certainly we could do some more investigation and come back to council with a report.
okay, there's no other speakers, so I'll put the motion. Those in favour, please say aye. And against? That's carried. And councillor Hopkins, you have your additional motion. Do you still want to move that?
Yeah, well, I would, and I've explained the logic of it, and I hope I hope my colleagues can see the benefits. It simply ensures that there's a win-win for everyone. The votes we've just cast and the endorsement we've just given to recommendations 1 through 4 are clearly a benefit to the community in Curragh and to the trust. There is an issue of opportunity cost to ratepayers, and the proposal that we contemplate selling 51 Gordon Street to reimburse them actually is an attempt to address that opportunity cost matter that the Mayor has referenced.
Do we have a seconder? No, that was the original motion. No, it's lapsed for want of a seconder. And could I just suggest that we've given contributions of ratepayer assets or ratepayer money to other activities like this, such as the medical centre in Palmerston and other things like that. So we haven't required any compensatory aspect to ratepayers for those things. And personally, I think that may be a factor in this particular one. This is benefiting the community quite significantly, who are all ratepayers. Councillor Holding, do you want to?
Just another, I was wondering, do we have, or do we need some sort of formal policy around this? I think you just mentioned the one in Palmerston we've had in the past, and we've had this request from St. John's and now this one, and then there's another one coming up for Squash Club. This just seems to be a bit of a case by case, but and other supplementary that sort of going across both papers. How do these measure against our, not this one particularly, but the next one against our property strategy?
In terms of the property strategy, I can say the Squash Club is not part of the property strategy. It sits in the recreation space. But they are currently doing a strategic land review of all their holdings at the moment, which my team is part of. So in terms of policies, I agree. We probably need to work on some policies, but that's probably a big piece of work, to be honest, because it won't be the only thing we need to look at.
I think overarching, over and above the property strategy or any other strategy, we've got our goals and aspirations for our community and things like prosperous and the thriving community. This firmly fits under that, around provision of good healthcare, and in this case, the Squash Club is a different story. So anyway, if we finish this one, we will move on to that one next. So item 7.4, the Palmerston Squash Rackets Club gifting of building. Hand over to officers.
So just to introduce the paper, which of course is seeking council's approval for the gifting of the Squash Club building and the peppercorn lease in relation to the land which it sits upon, and in consideration of the cost of the building as it stands at the moment, including insurance and items such as that, and actually what the present income is. This is also in relation to what the support of a well-being situation for the community as well. Such recreational clubs are of importance to communities. So I'll hand over to Suzanne.
Thanks, Jo. Good afternoon, Council.
This recommendation or the decision that you're going to make, it will actually bring this building in line with the other clubs in the district. So pretty much all of the other clubs own their own buildings and pay rates. So this is not the case with the squash club. It will enable the club to, invest in the building and bring it back to standard. They are financially viable. I think this decision is something that's been worked towards over a number of years, but for one reason or another has just not happened. Pretty much open for questions.
Just echoing the question from before, if the squash club fell over, would there be a requirement to hand the building back to council to gift it back?
Yes, there would be a requirement in the lease for council officers to consider bringing it back, or potentially for them to remove it off-site, depending on the condition of the building at the time.
In the club. Yeah.
The club, yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Thompson without a P.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just further, this has been an ongoing issue in my 4.5 years on council. I would commend staff for coming up with this resolution. One, it gives the squash club the opportunity to be able to source charity funding, which is excluded under the current arrangement. And secondly, I'd point out that whilst it is the Palmerston Squash Club, this venue is regularly used by clubs in North Otago in competition with town clubs, and they meet. So there is a wider benefit than just the Palmerston community.
Thank you, Councillor Hopkins with a P.
So just very quickly, a question. There is a reference on the first page 64 of our agenda to there being no cash impact to council, but an accounting loss on the 241,000 book value. So my question is, perhaps to Paul or to Alex, is that accounting loss going to be the full 241,000? And what, if any, implications are there in terms of, the annual report and audits and whether we are in deficit or not? I mean, are there accounting consequences of this that may not be optimum for ratepayers?
No, I mean, you should make, I suppose, decisions like this based on how we need to report it in the annual report. It's normal course of business, really, for council. And I think we inherited this building from a prior iteration of the squash club, so council didn't build it or construct it. It was sort of going back to where it should have been anyway. And the financial impact is very minor.
To be clear, is the accounting book loss the full 241,000 or less?
No, the loss, I assume we haven't been depreciating it, so probably is the full loss.
I did have a question on depreciation. Have we got depreciation funds sitting there because we've had that building? I know it might not be sitting in an account with that name on it, but
yeah, no, this is a facility. I don't think we'll confirm it, but I think it fell into the sort of we would never have replaced the building, so we weren't depreciating it for that reason. We were just dealing with minor repairs to keep it watertight, and that was about it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Someone happy to move? Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Thompson. Any further discussion? Councillor Ryan.
Thank you. I think any opportunity that we can take to empower our local communities and volunteers is a good one. Like clubs like this is so much more than just a place to play sport. They're a real social hub, especially in our rural communities, and you just look to places like Papakaio, Kurau as well. Squash clubs are at the heart of their communities, and so I think this is a really positive step.
Thank you. Right. Any other speakers? I'll put it. Those in favour, please say aye. Those against? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Claire and Suzanne. Appreciate your presence here in the chamber. I'm just going to look at what we do next because we've got officers here for different items. So where are we up to? I think if we go to 7.5, so we'll keep working our way through this one. So it's the next one on page 70, ratification of submissions on changing resource management national directions. And we've got David Campbell and Victoria van der Speck here to speak to that. Roger, do you want to do an intro?
Thank you very much, Mayor Kircher. This is a retrospective ratification of the submission that the team prepared for the National Directions Package. I'd like to remind elected members that there was a relatively short period of consultation on this. The information came out from the Ministry for the Environment on the 29th of May, which I noticed is a Thursday, late afternoon, which in effect made it Monday before anything was sort of considered and reviewed. There was a workshop with the council on the 8th of July. The material was put into the review room on the 11th of July and closed for feedback on the 18th of July in order that the submission could be finalised and signed out by the Mayor on the 25th of July.
Okay. David or Victoria, do you want to add anything?
Thank you, Mayor Kircher. This was a very interesting one in that the National Direction Package was split, and it was split in different ways. Firstly, the existing national instruments were sought to be amended in some areas, and there were some new national direction instruments proposed. Then because of the timing and what they call it, the policy sprint from the ministry, that the housing growth matters weren't included in national direction instruments. They were put forward as proposals that will come in as part of phase 3, which is the substantive RMA reform that will result in 2 new acts. So they basically have signalled the sort of growth requirements will be put into this new legislation, whereas all the other changes around primary production, farming, forestry, water, etc., were bundled into the existing national instruments. So it made it quite a tricky analysis of those, and obviously our submission has tried to reflect where we can comment on that as appropriate. There's a lot of material there, we acknowledge that. We were given a lot of material to look at, so we do apologise that it's come in that form. That's the form that is given to us to submit to make the job at the ministry easier. We have tried to keep some sort of general statements in there and spread across quite a team of people to do that. So Victoria's done a great job sort of pulling it all together at the end to try and make it make sense. But yeah, effectively a lot of the concern we've raised is around that kind of reduction, I guess, local say, local democracy and local input, where things are raised to the national level, and we have to basically fall in line with that and deliver those national statements as they come upon us, such as the minor housing units, they call them granny flats, that type of thing will just be placed on us both from a planning and building point of view. So yeah, it's interesting times, and yeah, there's another lot coming probably later this year in terms of the actual acts that are being changed. So you will see some more material when that hits us. Happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions? Councillor Thompson?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, it's not a question. I'd just like to state my position, acknowledging that the work was put in convene. I read but didn't respond. And in fact, when I rechecked this week, there were only 2 people who actually commented that they had completed it. So I don't know that I'm entitled to express an opinion now when I had the opportunity and bypassed it.
Correct. No, I think your opportunity to criticise is limited, but still happy to hear people's comments, to be fair. Councillor McCone.
Yeah, look, I think I'm the same as Jim. I didn't see it either, but I won't be voting to accept it. I'll be voting against it on the basis that I'm probably in charge of my own opinions and I don't agree with some of this response. Particularly with the statement on the bottom about national directions on weakening landscape biodiversity and heritage protections under the guidance that the government is trying to change these things now. I think it will affect the process in private land the way it's written, and the government has signalled that this needs to change. There's also no mention of a cost-benefit analysis under the system, and there is also a couple of quotes in there, one in particular, that the removal of an infrastructure development which removes quarrying as an infrastructure supporting activity. So I disagree with that, and to be true to myself, I can't support this.
Thank you. Councillor Hopkins.
Just a question only at this stage. I'm pretty sure that we've asked to be heard. Is that correct? Or is this not a? Okay, so this is just the totality of our comment. Okay, thank you.
David.
Yeah, just to qualify that, if once this, the new bills coming up with the new acts, there'll be a chance to be heard against the select committee on those. Yeah.
Mayor Kircher, I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
Do you have to second it?
I'll second that.
If I may just speak to it, I disagree with John. I had some concerns about our comment regarding landscape and heritage and biodiversity, but I can understand why, in general, we might, or councils, rural councils particularly, might continue to advocate for some controls in those areas. I regret two things that we can probably raise, or should raise, and I hope we do raise when the bill is produced. First of all, I think planning in New Zealand has a disproportionate emphasis on rural and pastoral landscapes rather than urban areas. And I have said literally for decades that the farms of New Zealand are factories. It's an industrial landscape and should be treated in the same way. And we should be arguing, in my view, for a commonality of treatment for urban industry and rural industry. Equally, if you look at the arguments regarding landscape and biodiversity and heritage, all of those are public goods, and all of them impose some constraint upon property owners. Some would say that those restraints, or that restraint, is totally valid. Other people would challenge it. Parliament's signalled a shift in the direction of further entitlements to property owners. But I have again argued for a long time, and I'd like to see us argue, that if it is a public good, it should be publicly funded. At the moment, our solution to the environmental management, particularly in rural areas, is that the owner of the property bears the cost. So it's a private cost for a public good. And to my mind, that's iniquitous and needs to be addressed. And I would like to see parliamentary legislation that says, effectively, if there is a public good, it is a public charge. And I suspect that would have a significant impact on the extent to which people demand heritage, landscape and other protections. Because if they were being funded out of a rate levy rather than a cost imposed on the private landowner, when it is in fact other third parties who benefit, then I think there might be a considerable shift in public opinion as to what is essential to have. But I congratulate Victoria on the work she's done on this. I think it was Victoria. It's hugely comprehensive, very thorough. I can't object other than in very general terms to the detail that you've provided. And I thank you for the submission.
David?
Thanks, councillor Hopkins. Just perhaps a quick comment on the agriculture aspect. There is a national policy statement on highly productive land that again is seeking to be watered down and resulting in less protection of particularly the LUC3 land, which is quite a big chunk of our district. So this is going both ways too, in terms of perhaps not looking after that land as well as it could for future agriculture. There's also a whole host of other public good resources that we don't really touch on as a regulator, but the regional councils do, such as air and water. And there's a lot of changes there that users of those resources have to meet certain standards as well. So it's not just, I guess, landscape and other things. It's all those other public goods that there's a certain water quality or air quality that have to be maintained if you're working in that space. So it's quite wide ranging. Well, not polluting is the ideal, yes. So yeah, there's quite a bit to it, but I think in the phase 3 reform, there'll be quite a shift in some of those criteria for landscape and other values like that.
Councillor Blakely?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks to Victoria as well for, you know, what's a pretty comprehensive piece of work. So like if I just touch on MPS HPL section specifically, there is a few challenges there and what's proposed, and I think you've captured the issues and offered sensible suggestions to address those matters that will impact us in a local context. So that's all we can do. Thank you very much.
Councillor McCone?
And just ask Jim to clarify, how can it be for the public good when it's privately owned?
No, well, may I answer that question?
Well, it's an obvious answer, but I'm sure.
What is argued is that there are various matters relating to landscapes and biodiversity to which individual property owners are required to A, agree, and B, adjust practices and maybe involve in expenditure for. But the people who benefit from those requirements are not the property owner, it's the passerby, the person on the highway who looks across the farm and sees the view. So to the extent that the beneficiaries are members of the public, it is, I would argue, a public good, but currently it's funded through a private cost.
If there aren't any other speakers, I'm going to go to, I'll put it. So those in favour of this being ratified, say aye. Those against, that is carried. And I just request that councillors, if stuff's put in, convene into the review room, take the opportunity to review it. If you've got a different view, that's what it's there for. That's part of feeding into the process. And before I signed this, I went through as much of the detail I could, and I went through, checked out who had done the reviewing, and felt that it was okay to sign it on that basis. Equally, as much as I don't agree with it, if people don't speak up and say they also don't agree with something, then I can't take that into account unless you do so. Right, councillors, we'll now move to the next item. Thank you very much, Victoria and David. So 7.6, development contributions, decisions made under delegated authority, and after that we'll move to 7.2, and then we will go back to the start of the agenda and work our way through the rest of it. Councillor McCone.
I'd like to clear a conflict of interest in this one, and I'll leave the room while this is being discussed, please.
What page are we going to go?
208. 208. I find it myself, and we'll. Right. Who am I handing to? Straight to Mandy? Right.
Thank you, Mayor Kircher. This is basically just taking the decisions that have been made and public excluded by the Development Contributions Subcommittee and by council, and just bringing it into a formal public meeting. So it's just a due process, recognising that there will be a new committee structure coming forward with the post-elections. So I'll take that report as read and happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
These are decisions that have been made and everything's done and dusted, signed, sealed and delivered.
That is correct.
Okay, someone happy to move? Sorry?
I'd like to move to
You certainly can, Mayor-elect Percival. And councillor Holding seconding that. Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, I'll put it. Those in favour, please say aye. Against? That is carried. Thank you very much, Mandy. Okay, now we go back to item 7.2, which is on page 50. Page 50. Page 50. Alex, do you want to introduce this?
We've received a notice of motion. So the first matter for the council to consider is whether it wishes to accept the notice of motion. The recommendation that it does accept the notice of motion to be considered. That it is compliant with the council's standing orders in terms of being provided in a manner and in sufficient time to be able to meet the standing orders and be included in this agenda today. So I don't think I need to say anything further unless you want me to explain further the procedure on this.
Maybe. I don't. Does everyone understand what the procedure is as we go through this? Maybe just detail.
So essentially, when we receive a notice of motion, the procedure is that I receive that notice of motion and decide whether it's compliant. It's then for council to decide whether it wishes to consider that notice of motion. So it's your agenda, your meeting, whether you wish to consider it. If you do agree to consider it, then it'd be for Councillor Blackler to then, as the proposer, to speak to that motion, and for you to consider whether then you accept what's being put forward in that motion.
Thank you. Hand to you, Tim.
So it's accepted.
Well, do you want to speak to the reasons for this before we accept it? As in the outline of it?
Point of order, sorry. This is something that I've encountered as well. My understanding, the way I read the standing orders, the standing orders don't provide for council to vote on whether they will accept the notice of motion. If a notice of motion is put in and meets the requirements set out in standing orders and is approved by the chief executive, then it is the notice of motion that is put. It's not, in this instance, the recommendation we have in front of us, which is that we formally receive the notice of motion. My understanding of the standing orders is that acceptance by the chief executive puts the notice of motion on the agenda and automatically determines that it will be voted on. Is there any officer who wants to comment on that interpretation of the standing orders?
Looking through it, you appear to be correct, Councillor Hopkins. Sorry, I just need to.
There was a brilliant notice of motion from me that was rejected on entirely these grounds and should therefore be retabled at the next meeting. But we'll address that at a later date.
Was it a notice motion, that one?
Yes, it was.
It wasn't actually. You had a motion to rescind a previous council resolution. That's the Hopkins.
I think I had a notice of motion to rescind previously.
Okay, unless there's objection, we'll go straight into the discussion presentation from Councillor Blackler and then discussion or questions. And then do the normal putting of a motion.
Thank you, Mayor Kircher. I'll mostly take the information provided here as having been read, but just to summarise quickly, this is a proposal to get the necessary steps in place and underway to stand up a future water services advisory group by mid-September. The reason for this is to take proactive steps rather than waiting to react to something. And with the election imminent, having an informal group in place until such time as the new council sees fit to stand up formal oversight arrangements for water service delivery will help provide a layer of informal oversight function to both the governance and organisational teams through the suggested collaborative approach. By approving the setting up of the advisory group, you would be endorsing the ability of the CE and the portfolio holder for a newly created role of future water services portfolio to work together to appoint individuals, 2 internal and 4 external, to the advisory group who are committed to or can support our direction with the requisite skills and attributes as outlined. These individuals would be tested against a skills matrix to ensure the grouping is complementary. The role and function of the group will help inform our engagement and response to any further work on the water service delivery plan if required, or to engage with specialist or facilitator, or assuming our delivery plan is accepted, help to suggest, test and support the thinking around our implementation of the new in-house water service delivery arrangements. Also to note, this is not intended to replace the valuable input Stu from Morrison Lowe has been providing to us, but more to supplement and offer better informed testing of the philosophy and response as water-related matters progress. Overall, the establishment of this group is time critical in that it can help us to be prepared for any future need for input, and by doing this now ensures that any lag period between the end of this triennial and the start of the new one following on from formalities and inductions can be supported by this group as required. And I'm happy to answer any questions or take any comments.
Thank you. Questions, Councillor McCone?
It's not a question, it's a comment really. I totally.
We're going for questions
Right,
first.
right.
There's a debate time for statements. Councillor Hopkins?
Yeah, look, a very brief question. Would it be appropriate, were this to be voted on, for the not only for the recommendations but also for the brief that follows, which to be voted on or included? I mean, what is the status of 2 and ongoing elements of this, like the scope of work, key areas of focus, deliverables and so on? Are they things that will be adopted as part of this resolution, or merely an exposition on Tim's part of why he's moved the recommendations?
Councillor Hopkins, can you just clarify what exactly you're asking for?
Let me be clear. I'm particularly interested in the thing about deliverables, where the very last sentence says that further work around opportunities within our network for highlighting, etc., including exploring the feasibility of a future shared services joint CCO approach with other Waitaki entities or South Canterbury councils. Now, we have voted this morning for a water services delivery plan that specifically says we're willing to entertain proposals with other councils. And I would have thought, in terms of reference for the advisory committee, should mirror the recommendation in the water services delivery plan and that consequently that sentence in the deliverable should be amended slightly to read feasibility of a future shared services joint CCO approach with other councils.
Well, having not had the opportunity to read the report that you're referring to prior to writing this, I was unaware of the wording that were in the recommendations, but this was just simply a reflection of the original resolution that was put through and
But since we voted as we did this morning, I'm wondering whether there is a view that the two documents should actually marry and make equivalent commitments.
Well, I think my understanding of the wording that we adopted this morning was that was implicitly making reference to the earlier motion that we adopted.
Sorry.
As opposed to your interpretation of the wording.
Words are words, and if you go and have a look at 5, it does not say other Waitaki entities, they're not mentioned, and it doesn't specify which councils. So there are two matters in which your deliverables for this advisory group differ from those that the council has undertaken by vote this morning in its water services delivery plan. I repeat, I believe that the advisory group as a subordinate to the council should actually have corresponding deliverables.
I think we'll have to agree to disagree on the interpretation there, Councillor Hopkins, but I guess it only makes a small part of what the primary purpose for the group is, which is to get through the first steps. This is about things further down the line. I don't think I am, Councillor Hopkins.
We're not going to get into that one right at the moment.
Actually, point of order, Mr. Mayor, I'd ask the member to withdraw and apologise for making that remark.
No, I won't withdraw, nor will I apologise. It is clear that there has been an intention for some considerable time to promote particular outcomes. One is an outcome involving geographically neighbouring councils, and the other is the possibility of an alliance with Network Waitaki or similar organisation.
Thank you, Councillor Hopkins.
Well,
thank you. I don't think that is a particular slur, given a whole lot of background to this particular item. So I'm not going to ask Councillor Hopkins to withdraw and apologise, but equally, let's stop getting into debate and talking directly to other members. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, a question for Councillor Blackler. I'm interested to drill in to the intent of gathering an advisory group. Is this to supplement us as governance? Is it to bring a different perspective than what we've been given, or is it to enhance the process? We have competent officers on site that have done a good job. So for me to support supplementary advice, I need to understand what would be brought to the table.
Thanks, Councillor Thompson. I'd say to that it's all of the above. The intent is that it's about getting the best outcome and ensuring that the approach is collaborative, brings the right skills around the table to support both us and ensure that everyone has the opportunity to work together with the best advice available. And I think it delivers on the intent overall behind the Water Service Delivery Act, which is to bring about some kind of independent input and oversight into the way we make our decisions. And I think this is just a stopgap between the chance for the new council to down the line to set up something more formally.
Someone else over there? No. Just a question from me. You've used independent a number of times, but you're proposing to put staff on this group.
Sorry,
and I really question how that can be independent.
yeah, thanks, Mayor Kircher. I did notice in the opening report and the title of the document that that's a mistake on my part. When the early stage thinking that I had circulated with the wider elected member group, as you've had a chance to review as well, Mayor Kircher. There was that initial kind of thinking, but that's since been modified to be a more collaborative approach.
Okay, because you just used independent oversight in your last comment, so I just want to be clear on that.
My apologies. That was a slip of the tongue.
Now there's a proposal in here to have a portfolio, which we've already got a central government reform portfolio, but to use a portfolio in a way that we've never used one before. So giving it more power than any of us, including myself, have had in the past. So I am curious about that, about why we might abdicate our control to one of us rather than actually being all involved.
Do you have a suggested alternative, Mayor Kircher?
No, I just want to know what the reasoning is for one person amongst ourselves to be given powers that none of us have had before.
Just to my earlier comments around the rationale for the development of this to ensure that there's something in place prior to the end of the term. I think unless there was a commitment to come back and meet collectively outside of the regular meeting schedule, then this would be a practical way of ensuring that a portfolio holder was able to express and represent what would be expected to be the shared view of the collective, not one that the portfolio held in their own right, in conjunction with the chief exec.
Has there been any discussion between yourself and others as to who that person might be?
I've certainly circulated some thoughts with you, as you're aware, with the whole group, as you're aware, in the development of this document. You were given a suggested list of potential names, and the group was asked to contribute to their thoughts on other suggested names for exploration.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't that version. There wasn't a mention of portfolio holder at that time. I'm just wondering whether you've had any discussions as to who the person might be.
Yes, so since circulating that with the group, I've also had follow-up conversation with Mr. Palmley about how I might bring forward a paper to council. And so this was where ultimately my thinking landed around how this paper maybe progressed.
Okay, have you any thoughts about who that person might be?
I mean, I'd certainly be happy to put my hand up for it, but obviously I'm open to anyone else doing the same.
As far as the abdication of our responsibilities to have one person do this, I'm still struggling with the understanding of that. If that person's going to be representing the views of all of us, then surely those views have to be gathered. In which case, why don't we just actually gather to agree who the members should be?
Yeah, and totally, Mayor Kircher, in the interest of time, if we could establish a commitment today around doing that in a timely manner, I mean, that's certainly something we could do as opposed to what's been set out here. But yeah, I mean, to date, engagement from yourself's been reasonably limited. So yeah, if you do have some thoughts, it would be good to hear about them.
Oh, look, I've asked for meetings with you on water and you haven't been able to make them. So the opportunity to talk it goes two ways. But I do, when it comes down to the membership, you have circulated some names. Have you had discussions with any of the people on that list around whether they would be interested in this?
No, I've circulated names with this group to see if anyone had any further. There's no fixed agendas here. There's a specific paper here with an outcome in mind, and if people are interested in supporting the outcome, then that's great. If not, then that's the way it is.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions for the time being? Councillor Ryan.
Thank you. I guess just interested in, Mr. Palmer, your thoughts on how this would work and your engagement that you've had with Councillor Blacklist so far.
So yeah, we had a discussion on it, and there's a couple of things that I'd suggested in feedback to Councillor Blacklist. So if you look at the way the recommendation is now worded, it's was the delegations here effectively to the chief executive working with the portfolio holder. There was different wording in there, I think, in the original draft that Councillor Blacklist had put together, and I suggested using the term portfolio holder because we have a framework already for that, and there aren't powers that are given to a portfolio holder. They are a liaison role, and part of the role description is that they are to work with the other members of the council to gather views and to feedback information as well. So the wording I'd suggested in there was to really reflect that framework we have already for the portfolio holder, and also to clarify that that delegation should be to one person, and preferably to if the council's giving a delegation, unless it's to a formal committee, delegation should be one person who's accountable to council. So that was my suggestions within there to help clarify matters in terms of where decision making might rest, and to put it within a framework that we already had.
Councillor Blakey, you mentioned in here about the group where are we? Find the wording. If needed, support for council and the chief executive to engage with any appointed specialist or facilitator if appointed. I think there's if there's a specialist there, they'll be doing what they will do, and I'm concerned that there's some phrases in here which sort of form a terms of reference, but equally are a bit loose on some of the detail that I would like to see. My concern is we're setting up a group where actually we lose control over aspects that the limited aspects where we do have control, that we abdicate our responsibilities. Some of the things are getting into operational direction, and the duplication of what we've already got, which could be augmented perhaps, but creating a whole extra group, I'm not sure whether that's the case. You've also got comments in there around some other community organisation being involved. Can you tell me what that's referring to?
Sorry, could you give me a reference and you catch it?
Deliverables, the last paragraph, which is on page 55, further work around opportunities within our network, etc., including exploring feasibility of a future shared services or joint CCO approach with other Waitaki entities or South Canterbury councils. Obviously, we've decided today that we're not limiting ourselves to South Canterbury councils. So my concern would be that if this is seen to override that would be a worry. But what are the other Waitaki entities that you're referring to?
Oh, it's just simply leaving it open to collaborate. I mean, the most obvious example is the other utility provider in town. Like presumably there is going to be some synergies there or opportunities for advice or suggested ways of doing better in and around the new way of delivering water, so that it's just simply trying to leave things open.
So is that to do with the joint CCO approach, or is that simply only the future shared services?
I guess it could be both.
Because they can't be a joint CCO. Again, there's some confusing wording in here. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of it. Personally, I would like to, if we were agreeing to this, I'd like to see a proper terms of reference drawn up, but that should involve all of us actually working together.
If we go back to the recommendation 1E, so there's a delegation to the chief exec working with the portfolio holder, who would hopefully be representing the wishes of the wider governance group, if that's the way we go. The authority to establish any necessary further expectations, scope or structure.
Why would we need to exclude the rest of us from that?
Again, to my earlier point, it's around trying to get something established with tight timeframes in front of us. Again, I'm more than open to a suggested alternative. It wasn't wasn't designed to be a fixed outcome per se. It was just a suggested way of moving forward.
Thank you. Councillor McCain?
Yeah, I'm a wee bit confused. So, Tim, just for clarification, what you're proposing is use local knowledge and people out there on the public space, and I think you've covered it off. That includes this in first paragraph on your introduction. The last sentence includes the opportunity for advice to provide support for the governance team. And is that what you're trying to do? You're trying to get continuity of people on the ground that will keep advising the staff and the governance, regardless of the staff changes and council changes, with people that are actually involved in the district with more knowledge. Not saying that we haven't got any, or staff haven't got any, but there's also another perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor McCain. That's correct. Noting that it says this includes the opportunity. It's not the only primary purpose, and I guess the overarching principle is that it's about doing things with, not to, the organisation. So the reasoning for trying to pull in an operational perspective from the organisation into this group, which, to Mayor Kirch's earlier point, and I apologise for any misleading wording in there, no longer makes the group independent as such, but it's about a collaborative way of working with the necessary skills and attributes that all are pulled together to complement each other, to ensure that we are putting forward our best foot forward in terms of the outcome we get for in-house water services delivery as a first step.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just try and shift the debate a little bit, because we seem to be getting hung up in the specifics. Would the first question be, is there any desire of this group to tap into outside expertise that's available in the community? Because if we're not willing to do that, then the rest of it's irrelevant. So my question would be, is there any appetite amongst us all to tap into whoever is out there with expertise before we actually get down to then how that works?
Well, these are questions of Councillor Blackler, so I'm not, are you asking him?
Well, yeah, I'm asking the room.
Well, I certainly think we should be using what resources we have, but I don't want to do that at the exclusion of all of us. So the motion, the notice of motion is very specific. It's got a very specific pathway, which excludes most of us throughout that. And that is not, it's not an open way of developing the group that actually is collaborative and inclusive. That is my point. Councillor Hopkins?
Yeah, just one question. Based on my reading of the notice of motion and also what I've heard this afternoon, am I correct in assuming that the proposal is that this advisory future water services advisory group would be established by mid-September and its term of operations would run until October the 12th elections?
No, I think it is worded there somewhere in the document, Councillor Hopkins, but the part of the purpose of standing up some sort of informal arrangement is so that this can act as a stopgap to getting that kind of independent, not independent, but outside of, there I am using that word again, but bringing in outside perspectives to support our organisation and us as governance and getting the right outcome under the new way of working. And that wouldn't end at the end of the term, but would run through until the newly elected council was in a position to make different or either continue the arrangement or make new arrangements or adopt the formally suggested approach of the subcommittee or committee once they're in a position to do so.
Well, here I then have a question for Mr. Palmley and or Mrs. Bailey or another officer. Sorry. My understanding is that committees like this actually expire on the day of election and would need to be reconfirmed thereafter. So this notion that the advisory group might carry on for an indeterminate period while the new council finds its feet is actually statutorily incorrect. Am I right?
So, yeah, it's the case that all committees and subcommittees and groups do expire at the election. But I'd say that it would be through consultation with whoever the mayor is as to whether this would be allowed to continue until the council formally considered its new committee structure.
So we should be asking today the four prospective mayoral candidates for their views on that matter.
Could I ask you, Councillor Blackler, would it be appropriate for us, instead of setting out this very prescribed pathway, to simply resolve that the governance team will meet Tuesday afternoon next week to discuss terms of reference and potential membership of the group that you're proposing?
Well, I mean, yeah, I take your point, Mayor Kirch, but I'm kind of reluctant to agree to it on the basis that I have put this kind of thinking and idea to the group for a significant period of time now, and you know, to the earlier point about choosing or not to engage on RMA stuff, you know, some of us have chosen not to engage on this up to this point. So I think it would be good to get an outcome today. Is where my thinking sits on it, but ultimately that falls with everyone here to make that decision or not.
You had indicated that you'd be open to creating a time to have those discussions. It's pretty difficult to do something early. A week away is fairly prompt, I would have thought. And as much as you've drawn a comparison with the RMA submission, that was very much a time-bound obligation that we all had. There was no obligation for any of us to respond to what you had put forward to us, because we've still had the opportunity to debate it today. So they are not comparing apples with apples. And I just think that it should be something where we sit down together and have a sensible discussion around what do we actually want to achieve with this group and how do we best do it in a way that doesn't exclude any of us. And that is as collaborative and inclusive as we can.
I
if
feel like-
if you want to proceed with the notice of motion as is, that is still your right. But for someone who has argued that keeping local control is really important, I don't think we'd be doing that justice.
Well, in response to your question, Mayor Kircher, I think there's still the opportunity to sit down and basically give direction to whoever the portfolio holder may be about what those perspectives are next week if this is the way the group goes today. So I don't think either way, I think the conversation next Tuesday afternoon would be beneficial. So if you would allow me, I'd be happy to move the recommendation as it is, and just see how it falls.
Okay, we have a mover. Do we have a seconder? Councillor McCone. Just to speak to it.
Yeah, I think I've said enough on the matter, so I don't really wish to speak any further. But yeah, just to reiterate that the intended outcome is to ensure that there's a collaborative approach. We've got the right skills around the table, whether that be supporting governance or at an operations level. There's a number of new perspectives that probably need to be canvassed under a utility way of thinking, compliance with Commerce Commission, engagement with Taumata Arawai, etc. So I think it can only be beneficial to enable the opportunity for input that meet the requisite skill sets as required.
Councillor Thompson.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Blackler, would you be prepared to entertain an amendment in that if we accepted the motion but removed the reference to a portfolio holder subject to next week's conversations as a governance group?
So just to clarify totally, Councillor Thompson, it would be saying request the chief executive appoint up to 6 members to the advisory group. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, no, I was just trying to find ground where we can all move forward. The mayor's said that we can have a governance discussion next week. Can we progress the motion excluding who's going to be involved from us until we've had that conversation?
So what you're suggesting is that that the recommendation would read A and B as written, would remove C, and under D would remove the reference to the future water services portfolio holder. So to be explicit, request the chief executive appoint up to 6 members of the advisory group with the required skills and attributes by mid-September. And then E, delegate the chief executive the authority to establish any necessary further expectations, scope or structure to enable meaningful input. Is that what you mean?
Could I just suggest something, which is along the lines of what Councillor Thompson's saying, and I appreciate what you're saying, Councillor Thompson, but it could simply be that council establishes a future water services advisory group and B agrees that purpose there, and the third being that a session is held with the governance team to establish the terms of reference and membership for the future water services advisory group.
So that would replace C, D and E?
Yes. I think they would achieve the outcome without having any new powers created for a portfolio that don't exist currently, and allows it, just ensures the inclusion of everyone.
Would those terms of reference be coming back to council? Because unless there's some delegation somewhere to someone, they wouldn't have any status.
Well, I guess we can delegate ourselves to agree on that. I mean, if we can delegate it to one person, we can delegate it to a group. I don't see any.
You could make delegations to, officers, you can make delegations to committees. I think delegating to an informal group, I think we'd run into difficulties with on that.
You could delegate to the mayor.
If it needs to be there, delegate to the mayor in conjunction with the governance team. I mean, we do have delegations that go to individual elected members.
I vote Arlene for
So the suggestion is the council establish a future water services advisory group, agrees with the remit, which is in there. And third, the decision is held with the governance team to establish the terms of reference and membership for the future water services advisory group, with delegations to the mayor to confirm, something like that type of thing. The main thing is that we all agree on it.
Mayor Kircher, point of order. Point of order number one, I think mover and second would have to agree to this as an amendment.
Yeah, no, I just want to
Number two, maybe we should actually just adjourn for 5 minutes and literally get the wording correct, because what I heard you just say doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I think the amended C needs to start delegates to the mayor in association with the elected councillors the following tasks or responsibilities. But I just think we need to get the wording absolutely right, then establish whether mover and seconder endorse it. And if they don't, this is voted on, and if it's lost, then that is put as an alternative.
Thank you. Might be a suggestion. So just looking at Jason, we're able to create a break now. Okay, so on that suggestion, I'll adjourn the meeting so we can get the wording tidied up. Thank you.
Sorry, that's me. Yeah, mine. It won't turn off.
Right, ready to go back? Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're just going to get back into it. We have come up with an alternative set of wording. Sorry, got a slight echo going on in the chamber. We've got a separate set of wording for the motion, which we've put forward. Councillor Blackler appears to prefer his original notice of motion wording. So, but I'll hand over to him to speak to that.
Well, is that you? Because are you inviting Councillor Blackler to exercise his right of reply?
No, I'm just confirming what the word.
Oh, sorry.
What he was the original mover, so we haven't got a formal amendment moved. It was more a request for a change of wording before it became an amendment. So, Councillor Blackler, do you want to set out your position as far as what is the wording that you want to move?
Just the wording as is written, would be my position at this point. Yeah, no further comment, Mayor Kircher.
Okay. Councillor Hopkins.
Mayor Kircher, I will speak. Oh, we're having
Still got echoes.
Buddy Holly echo issues. Oh, no, it's gone away. No, it hasn't. Oh, rave on, it's a crazy feeling. And no, well, I'm just talking about Buddy Holly being double tracked. That's all.
Rightio. I think we're okay now. So.
Yes, sorry, Rebecca.
Sorry, before I go to you, I should have just double checked that we did have a seconder. So, Councillor McCone, are you still seconding that original motion? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, look, I had not responded to Tim's earlier emails inviting people to comment because I wanted to speak to him personally on the matter. It may surprise him to know that I share his concerns around local water done well and parliamentary legislation as enacted by governments, as I said this morning, of the left and the right. But what I would have said to Tim, had I had a chance to chat to him, and there have been other things that have kind of tended to influence my availability in the area, in the district. But what I would have said is, I think the appointment of this group is premature. My view is we should be waiting until at least September the 3rd, or until at least we get feedback from DIA. I say again, I think you as a group are underestimating or overestimating the amount of authority and independent autonomy we actually have. I think that comments this morning about, oh, we've still got two years and so on, this, in my view, is not correct. And I think if we take DIA at their word, they are going to impose solutions on councils with whom they disagree, whether those councils like it or not. Now, I hope they don't. I hope that maybe political interference persuades them not to do so, but I fear they will. And there will be no point having a future water services advisory group if DIA does what it says it will do and rejects our current water services delivery plan and imposes a solution on us. There'll be nothing to advise about. So in my view, we should be waiting until at least we know what the response to the SDP is going to be before we establish this. Secondly, we have established through question and answer today that this group would only exist from mid-September till October the 12th. Thirdly, I share the Mayor's concerns about one member, that person being appointed future water services portfolio holder, having the degree of influence on future decision making in that period of time, which is actually less than a month. Tim did indicate that he would be interested in doing this. My own view is that if there is to be a person or persons representing the councillors on this group, should it be voted to be established. The only councillors, in my opinion, who should be part of it are those who are seeking re-election and will be here after October the 12th. It is my sincerely held view that people who are not staying should not further determine the future and operational viability of the next council. So those are the reasons why, as of now, I will be voting against this.
I'm going to move an amendment because I don't think it is, I think it follows along the lines of what's intended for this. And that is that Council A establishes a future water services advisory group. B agrees that the remit of the future water services advisory group is to provide advice and support to Council and the CE on further development of the water services delivery plan, should this be required, the development of the implementation plan for delivering water services in-house efficiently and effectively, and engagement with a government water services facilitator or specialist should be appointed. C delegates to the Mayor, in consultation with councillors, at a session to be held as soon as feasible, the finalising of the terms of reference and membership of the advisory group. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Thompson.
So just for clarification, the A and B 1, 2, 3 are the same, and then your amendment comes in under them.
Yes. Do I have a seconder for that?
I'll second pro forma. I will second it pro forma, Mick.
Thank you. Speaking to that, it achieves the outcome. No one is arguing against having an advisory group. The process of determining that advisory group and the inclusion of all of us is the key factor. So that is, I don't. I've tried to share a lot of information along the way on the various activities around water reform. A lot of information's gone out from various sessions I've been at to make sure that people are kept in the loop as much as possible. This is about making sure we are all kept in the loop, and particularly when it comes to something as important as handing over some responsibility that we should have directly ourselves to another group. So that is what I'm trying to get, is simply how we do that. Do you have any other speakers? Okay, I'll put the amendment. Those in favour of the amendment becoming the substantive motion, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Show of hands, please. Those in favour? Those against? That is lost. The original motion remains motion. Any speakers to that? Councillor Thompson.
Is there still not an opportunity for the appointment of the elected member to take place at next Tuesday after the meeting of elected members? Can that not be simply written in that D, or sorry, C, that process will take place after we've had a governance only meeting?
I would suggest that's a decision of council. Taking a decision in a meeting that's not a decision-making meeting, I think would be inappropriate.
So how do we word that, or do we actually have to convene a meeting once we'd had our workshop?
You don't, you've got
Thank you very much, Councillor Hopkins. I'm getting a little tired of your dismissive and disrespectful behaviour.
Right. Any other speakers? Okay. Those in favour of the motion, say aye. Those against? No. I will need a show of hands. So I didn't hear from a number of people. Those in favour, please raise your hand. Those against? Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to.
So is that carried?
Sorry, carried, yes. Moving on to the minutes, item 4.1, page 6. Everyone happy to move those? Councillor Thompson.
Sorry, Mayor Kircher. Item 5.1.2 in the minutes. I will fall on my sword. I probably didn't represent the Waihemo Community Board's position clearly enough. And the desire was to support Lincoln Street going one way, subject to consultation with the Hampden community. And unfortunately, with us progressing that before the consultation took place, they're feeling aggrieved. I was remiss. I should have spoken more clearly on that.
Thank you. I don't think we'll note it in the minutes, but appreciate your comment. Is someone happy to move the minutes? Accepted. Councillor Ryan, Councillor Hopkins. Any comments? Those in favour say aye. And against? That is carried. Scheduled for. Sorry, just double checking the timetable. Yeah, sure thing. Yeah.
I just wanted to say I really appreciate the new format, especially with the timestamps of the meetings there. It makes it really easy to go through, reference back to the YouTube videos. And so thank you to the government's advisor for implementing that.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to make note of that too, because it was like, what's those blue numbers there? So yeah, very handy. It will make our searching for resolutions in the future a lot easier. We'll carry on. So item 5.1, Alex's report. And to you, Alex.
Thank you. Feels like it's been a long day already, and here we go with the update report. So this report is really to update you on the progress made towards achieving the council's goals and programme, including the status of the key performance indicators set by council for the chief executive and the organisation for the year ending June 2025. And I think it's fair to say it's been a year like no other that consists of the change we planned, and the change that's been put upon us. And we've completed some really big ticket items in this time, including the most challenging long-term plan that we've had to go through, responding to the local water done well, which I know has been taxing and tense for all of us, considering a number of other reforms. And we are, as a sector, councils are being reformed bit by bit, department by department in terms of the government agenda. And progressing our change and transformation programme to deliver better for our community, whilst delivering our capital programme and the business as usual. I think it's fair to say the organisation, its capacity and its people have been stretched to the point of being almost overwhelmed with the volume of high priority work, but staff, to their credit, have maintained a focus on delivering for our district and communities whilst dealing with the change and the big issues in front of us. I'm not going to go through all of the report. I'll just highlight a few things. So particularly around transformation and our continued progress of this. So as a reminder, we spent almost a couple of years planning the change, thinking about what the change was that we needed. But this year that's gone has been the time when we've been implementing that change. And it's been the biggest change to this organisation since it was formed in 1989. It's a fundamental change to our model and approach of how the council delivers and conducts its business. And I wanted to thank all the staff from across the organisation who I think have shown courage, determination and commitment to the council and the communities we serve in delivering the change. And this is despite the personal uncertainties that it has brought for many of them and the additional work and priorities that have emerged on top of delivering change whilst maintaining our business and services to our community. We're not at the end of that change yet, but we can see that the benefits of the change are starting to emerge. The staff structural changes are now in place and are supporting the move to a new operating model, which is enabling improved delivery with less staff resource, and we've managed to achieve that whilst minimising costly redundancies. The new customer service model is starting to improve access to our customer services and increasing the speed in which we deal with customers, as well as ensuring greater efficiency in the use of our resources. Our locality model is in enhancing our connection with and responsiveness to our local communities. We can see our project management office is starting to support higher standards of project management, and in particular enabling us to ensure improved value for our ratepayers and supporting an improved delivery rate of projects in our capital programme. Investment in and use of technology, including AI, is supporting improvements across the organisation, for example, in terms of our customer services and enabling more efficient and higher levels of customer services there, but also in the back office systems that are helping to remove or automate previous inefficient processes that frustrated staff and took up time, taking time away from delivering for the organisation and our customers. And we've commenced deployment of improvements to our organisational performance management, but we're not there yet. But this is starting to support us moving away from an activity focus to being more focused on the outcomes we're delivering, the value we're delivering, and getting into that continuous improvement, which is what we want to do, so that when we come to the end of transformation, we don't just become stuck in the new way. We continue to look at how we improve what we do and how we deliver for our community. And we're also making considerable progress in the people and capability management area to realise our ambition of becoming an employer of choice so that we can retain and attract the skills we need to deliver for our community. But we're now in the process of shifting towards embedding the outcomes and making a transition into continuous improvement. And we're doing a lot of thinking about that so that we can continue on the trajectory when we close the programme towards the end of this year. A couple of other things I'll draw attention to. So a lot of work going on around the elections, preparing for a new council, including a new mayor, and aiming to ensure that all our elected members, mayor, councillors, community board, are rapidly equipped with the tools and the knowledge to take on the governance role quickly and start dealing with what will continue to be a challenging period ahead for us. And also included in this report is a summary of the survey of elected members, which will help us continue to focus on shaping our induction and our continuous improvement of governance support. Happy to answer any questions on the report and its content.
Thank you. Any questions?
Sorry, I just had a specific question on behalf of Councillor Linwood, who is not able to be here today. She's just saying, Alex, in your report, you've highlighted progress in supporting leadership skills and development. Courtney's saying she's always supportive of professional development, but would like to hear your view on how important you see continued investment in this space for building a high-performing organisation is. And since you've implemented what you have you noticed a change in the area?
So dealing with the last bit of the question first, yes, I think we're starting to notice the change, but I think the investment we've made is the start of that investment. I think we're looking at how we continue to invest in leadership. And I think leadership is one of those things you need to continuously invest in. But also the work we're doing is about how do we continue to invest in the skills of all of our staff across the organisation and get everyone in the mindset of continuously improving their skill set and how they deliver as well. And investing in that is important. So that professional development is an ongoing focus for us. Yes.
Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, I have two questions about reorganisation and one about tourism. On page 18 of your report, Ms. Parmley, You talk about how business as usual has been pretty successful generally, but you say exceptions are within the library service where there was temporary disruption and within governance support where we struggled to find the capacity. What were I presume the reference to governance support relates to the advisor, or does it? And what were the issues with the library service, please? That's question number one.
So I wasn't relating it to any one individual, but I think it's well recognised that our governance support services weren't up to where we wanted to be. They were going through a lot of change at the time, and we had a programme of improvement, and we were struggling to get all the resources we needed in there. So part of the transformation was the governance operations interface, looking at how we continue to move forward in our support for governance, and we weren't for a period of time able to really move forward on those issues or fully support the normal day-to-day functions that were required for governance. So it took a lot of work to sort that out. So I think that was one area of disruption. I think in terms of the library, I think we need to recognise it's a big change for how the library operates, and there was obviously a customer reaction to that, but also staff felt some disruption in that as well, from moving our customer service, our main customer service desk to the library, the integration of the teams, and thinking about a different way of delivering. And it's inevitable, really, that it's a big change, and it's going to be slightly disruptive. I don't think it was noisy down there or too disruptive for customers, but I think there was a perception that it was a big change, and there was some discomfort around that change at some points.
Thank you. Yeah, the question I had about change or organisation was on page 20. You talk about the need to have a new organisational strategy related to water services and implementing the water services delivery plan. So I guess you say work is commencing on the development of a new organisational strategy. Do you have any comment on what it's likely to be or when it's likely to emerge?
I don't think it'll be in this time. I think there'll be something for the new council to deliver, but I think it's important that we recognise that keeping waters in-house is going to have a massive impact on the council and what sort of organisation we are. We want to continue to improve, and one of the things I'm committed to is that when the transformation programme comes to an end, we don't just stop in terms of that, looking at how we improve things. We will need to continue to improve. We'll need to continue to seek efficiencies as an organisation, and that will mean thinking differently about how we deliver the outcomes we want, and not assuming that council is going to deliver it all or put money into everything. We'll need to think differently about that because certainly our finances will be under considerable strain. So we will need to rethink the organisation and continue to rethink it, and that's really about embedding that continuous improvement piece, so that we don't become stuck. We will need to continue to respond to other reforms that are coming our way as well.
Question. Look, page 26 and 27. Most of the numbers look good. We outpaced Otago national rates with growth of 6.3% by September 2024. But on the next page, there's references to guest nights going up 7.6%, international spend up 9.3%, and yet there's a reference to tourism spending overall falling 2.4% by March 2025. So, I mean, oddly, that seems counterintuitive. If guest nights are up and there's a 20% increase in international spend, even if it's only 7% of the total, has anyone done any work on where tourism spending has declined, and whether any of that decline can be sort of analysed and compensated for, or marketing strategies put in place to perhaps redress that spending fall?
Get a microphone.
Great question. Councillor Hopkins. Just in relation to this, it's around the amount that's being spent. So even though the amount of time in the region is longer, so people are staying more nights, their actual spending while they're here is dropping. And that's actually a national scene that we're seeing across New Zealand. So there was a report that came out this week that indicated that same situation for many environments like Waitaki.
But we don't know if there's any particular, is it hospo or food and beverage, or do we have any idea of where the spend decline is actually most evident?
We don't have those specifics at the moment, sorry.
Okay, any other questions? Deputy Mayor Halilele?
I'm thinking, probably just speaking on that, I was just thinking because there's like 600 students here in North Otago this week for a rugby tournament. And, you know, like the capturing the value add that the sports and facilities would add might be quite helpful to determine or distinguish the tourism spend versus the recreation and sporting and events. So it might just kind of help us determine what the needs are moving forward around accommodation, around retail, around things like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's data that will actually define between those two parts of the sector. I think it's all just counted as visitors, and so that would be challenging, but something we obviously hope keeps increasing. Brent.
There is a collection for night stays that we have to provide through to Statistics New Zealand, and they report back monthly. I believe it is available online. That can be broken down by region. So I know that we have to report those through each time, but I can send a link through to where that data is. But how you match that up and how it relates to the rest of the data, I'm not entirely sure.
Is that data that includes why they're there?
Sorry?
Is it data about why those people are there? Do you mean that or not?
So no, it's not the why, but it breaks down the accommodation versus other types of spending. So yeah, it doesn't say that exactly why, but yeah, I don't think there's anything that collects that sort of data.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I'll move and receive the report. Do someone second that? Councillor Thompson, any further discussion? I'll put it, those in favour, please say aye. Against? 1-1. Carried. Thanks very much, Mr. Palmley, for that report. Right, moving to 6.1, recommendations from the Performance Audit and Risk Committee meeting, which was looking at the Treasury strategy, I think it was. Mr. Neal, do you want to make any comment as chair? No. Mr. Hope, how about you? No one wants to say anything. Is someone happy to move the recommendation there? Councillor Hopkins, thank you. Councillor McCone, seconding that. Any discussion? Those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. That ends the public part of the meeting. We've got several items in public excluded. Some move that we, confession time, Paul.
Correct. So earlier in the meeting, there was a question about the potential rate rise for the coming year. I gave a response of 40%. That was sort of repeated a couple of times. I just need to clarify. I was thinking of an earlier version of the report, and what that will now be spread over 2 years rather than in a single year when it was 27-28. So we're looking at closer to a 25% increase in the 26-27 year, and then a 15% rate increase in the 27-28 year. So apologise for any confusion that may have caused. It was hazard of answering questions on the fly. So I just wanted to note that before the meeting closed. Thanks.
In your favour, I guess. Well, not favour really, but it's it ends up being quite a bit more than 40% because you don't just add them to you. It's cumulative as well. So more than any of us would like. Okay, so with that, someone might like to move. We go into public excluded. Okay, Jim, thank you. Rebecca, thank you. Those in favour say aye. Against, that is carried. Thank you very much to everyone who's watched the live stream. Hopefully it's been entertaining. It's been fairly long. Thanks very much to officers for all the contribution they've made and to elected members. Thank you.